Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the vampire god, the sage of the blood ben. There's Naruto x Katara, Avatar, the last Airbender. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Blood Awakening. Pain's Rinnegan eyes bored into Naruto's soul as Konoha lay in ruins around them. The air reeked of dust, blood, and despair, the unmistakable scent of a village brought to its knees. Naruto had never felt such fury coursing through his veins, such primal rage threatening to consume him from within. 6 tails of the 9 tails chakra had already manifested, the caustic energy flaying his skin in strips, revealing the raw, red musculature beneath. "Do you hate me now?" Pain asked, his voice unnervingly calm amidst the devastation. "Do you understand pain?" Something snapped inside Naruto, deeper than the seal, more fundamental than his connection with Kurama. The ground beneath them trembled, not from their battle, but from something ancient awakening. Airline fissures spread across the crater Pain had created, revealing archaic symbols etched into stone that hadn't seen daylight in a millennium. "What is this?" Pain's perpetual composure faltered, momentarily as crimson light seeped through the cracks, bathing the battlefield in an otherworldly glow. Naruto couldn't answer. The 8th tail was emerging, the transformation accelerating beyond anything he'd experienced before. But this time, something was different. The 9 tails chakra intertwined with the mysterious red energy rising from beneath Konoha, creating spiraling patterns of orange and crimson that seemed to bend reality itself. Inside the mindscape, Kurama roared as crimson tendrils infiltrated the massive cage, wrapping around the bars and seeping through the paper seal. This presence, impossible, the 9 tails thrashed against his confines. Tsukuyomi no Mikoto should have been sealed away forever. A voice, ancient and resonant, echoed through the chamber, underscore the convergence approaches. The veils between worlds thin. My time returns, underscore. From the darkness materialized a figure, tall, regal, with skin pale as moonlight and eyes red as fresh blood. Black hair cascaded down shoulders draped in flowing crimson robes adorned with tomo patterns and ancient script. "You were sealed beneath this land before humans even built their first villages, ***, Kurama snarled. "How have you awakened?" The entity smiled, revealing elongated canines. Blood calls to blood. Pain awakens pain, and this child, red eyes turned toward Naruto's spiritual form. This child has broken barriers none before him could. In the physical world, Pain launched his final assault, black chakra receivers aimed directly at Naruto's transforming form. They penetrated the chakra cloak but stopped short of flesh, suspended in midair as though time itself had frozen. Blood, Naruto's blood, rose from his wounds in thin streams, defying gravity. It coalesced around the chakra receivers, hardening and shattering the alien metal. Pain's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "This is not the 9 tails power," he stated flatly. Within the mindscape, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto approached the cage. The seal weakens. The boy surrenders to rage. "And I have waited eons for such a perfect vessel. You cannot have him." Kurama's massive claws slashed futilely at the deity. "The boy is mine." Neither of you understands, came Naruto's voice, stronger and more resolute than either entity expected. His spiritual form stepped between them, glowing with determination. This is my body. My village. My precious people being slaughtered. If there's power to be had, yours, his, or anyone's, I'll take it to protect them. The vampire god's laughter echoed like crystal bells. Such spirit, such will, very well, child of prophecy. Let us make a pact, the 3 of us. Not master and servant, but equals in one vessel. Fool, Kurama roared. He'll drain you dry and discard your husk. "What happens to me doesn't matter," Naruto replied, eyes flashing between blue, red, and something entirely new, a swirling pattern of crimson and violet. "But I won't let anyone else die." With that declaration, he reached toward the seal, fingers ready to tear it away completely. "Wait, commanded Tsukuyomi no Mikoto. Not destruction, Transformation. The seal becomes the binding contract between us. Long, pale fingers traced new patterns around the existing seal. Ancient characters merged with the fourth Hokage's design, creating something unprecedented. Three entities bound in covenant rather than subjugation. The physical world distorted around Naruto's transforming body. Pain retreated several steps, genuine caution in his movements. The crimson light intensified, and Konoha's defenders shielded their eyes as power cascaded from the epicenter of the battle. When the light subsided, Naruto stood transformed. His height remained unchanged, but everything else had shifted subtly. His whisker marks had deepened and darkened against skin now pale as moonlight. Golden hair had acquired crimson streaks at the temples and crown. His eyes, when they opened, showed slitted pupils swimming in irises that shifted between azure, blood red, and royal violet. But most striking was the absolute stillness with which he stood, no wasted movement, no nervous energy. Just the preternatural calm of a predator who knows the hunt is already won. You speak of pain. Naruto's voice carried new harmonic undertones that sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. You know nothing of suffering across the eons, of hunger that transcends mortality, of watching civilizations rise and fall like waves upon sand. Blood from fallen shinobi around the battlefield began to tremble, then rise in thin rivulets that snaked through the air toward Naruto. They didn't enter his body but orbited him like crimson satellites, responding to subtle gestures of his fingers. Pain's expression remained impassive, but his next words betrayed his intrigue. What are you? Naruto smiled, revealing elongated canines. I am what I have always been, Naruto Uzumaki of the Hidden Leaf. But now, I am also more. The blood droplets around him formed into needles, then swords, then shields, demonstrating precision control that defied known ninjutsu principles. Fascinating, Pain murmured, but it changes nothing. This world will know pain, and from that pain will emerge true peace. I've seen what your peace looks like, Naruto countered, gesturing to the devastation around them. Let me show you mine. What followed wasn't simply combat, it was revelation. Naruto moved with impossible speed, each motion fluid and economical. The blood he controlled formed weapons, shields, and bindings that complemented his taijutsu. When pain attempted to repel him with Shinra Tensei, Naruto liquefied his own blood, allowing the repulsive fork to pass through his partially transformed body before resolidifying. From a safe distance, Hinata Hyuga watched with activated Byakugan, witnessing something unprecedented. His chakra network, it's changing. The red chakra and something else, something ancient, they're not fighting his natural energy anymore. They're harmonizing. Naruto systematically dismantled Pain's remaining bodies, N.O.T. through overwhelming force but with surgical precision. Blood-formed Senbon targeted the exact nerve clusters controlling the chakra receivers. When the Preta path attempted to absorb his chakra, Naruto allowed it, only for the body to convulse as the vampire deity's essence proved toxic to its system. Throughout the battle, Naruto accessed fragments of knowledge from Tsukuyomi no Mikoto's mill. Enya of existence, combat techniques long forgotten, weaknesses in Dujutsu that predated the Sage of Six Paths himself. When only the Diva path remained, Naruto stood before Pain, unwinded and untouchable. Yield. Tell me where your real body is hidden. Pain's ringed eyes narrowed. You truly have become something unexpected. Perhaps you are the one, but I must know for certain. He raised his arms for one final, massive Shinra Tensei. Naruto didn't attempt to dodge. Instead, he called forth blood from his own veins, creating a complex array of symbols in the air between them, ancient ALS that Tsukuyomi no Mikoto had used to challenge gods. The gravitational force struck the blood barrier and rebounded, catching Pain in his own technique's backlash. As the Diva path collapsed, systems failing, Naruto approached and placed a hand on the body's forehead. Show me, he commanded, the vampire god's power allowing him to extract the truth directly from the chakra network. Visions flashed. A pale, emaciated figure connected to a massive machine. A woman with blue hair standing guard. A location hidden in the forests beyond Konoha. I understand now, Naruto said softly. Your pain, your loss. But this path leads nowhere. Without another word, he vanished in a flash of crimson light, a new application of the Flying Thunder God technique infused with his blood-based powers. The real Nagato had no time to react before Naruto materialized in his hidden chamber. Konan moved to intercept, paper weapons whirling, but froze when Naruto raised a hand. Not in threat, but in peace. I haven't come to kill him, Naruto stated. I've come to show him another way. What transpired in that chamber would later become legend, how the Blood Sage spoke of a different path to peace. How he used his newfound powers not to destroy but to heal, drawing forth Nagato's suppressed humanity from beneath layers of pain and ideology. When they emerged hours later, something had fundamentally changed. Nagato, though still weakened, stood on his own feet for the first time in years, his body partially restored through Naruto's blood arts. Konan walked beside them, her perpetual stoicism softened by cautious hope. Together, they returned to Konoha to begin the process of resurrection for those fallen in the attack. Nagato would give his life force, but Naruto's blood techniques would ensure the process didn't kill him outright, a compromise between sacrifice and survival that Nagato's original plan hadn't allowed. As the revived villagers began to stir, Tsunade approached the strange trio. Her medical ninja's intuition immediately sensing the change in her surrogate grandson. Naruto, she said cautiously, what happened to you? He turned those disconcerting eyes toward her, flashing between blue and crimson. Something was sealed beneath Konoha long before the village existed. The battle with pain broke those seals. He gestured to the ancient patterns still visible in the cratered earth. Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, a deity worshipped before the time of the Sage of Six Paths. A blood god, a vampire, Tsunade whispered, recognition dawning. The old scrolls in The Forbidden Archives mention such an entity, sealed away because its powers violated the natural order. Not violated, Naruto corrected gently. Transcended. Blood is life, Ba-chan. It connects all living things. And now, I can sense it, manipulate it, use it to heal as well as harm. To demonstrate, he called forth a small sphere of his own blood, transforming it into a miniature ion of the Konoha symbol before reabsorbing it without leaving a trace. Tsunade's medical curiosity overcame her initial wariness. I need to examine you, immediately. The examination revealed truths both wondrous and concerning. Naruto's cellular structure had fundamentally altered, creating a perfect synthesis between human, Biju, and divine essences. His blood contained properties Tsunade Ha-D never encountered. Regenerative capabilities far beyond normal healing factors, adaptogenic qualities that could potentially revolutionize medicine, and chakra conductivity that defied conventional understanding. You're still you, she concluded finally, equal parts relieved and disturbed. But you're also more. Your life expectancy. She paused, recalibrating her instruments. I can't even calculate it anymore. Potentially immortal, or at least extraordinarily long-lived. Naruto absorbed this information with uncharacteristic calm, another sign of his transformation. The impulsive, active boy had been replaced by someone with the patience of centuries. Immortality means nothing if those I care about still perish, he replied softly. There must be a purpose to this power. That purpose revealed itself sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after Pain's attack, as Konoha began its reconstruction, the skies above the village distorted. What began as a subtle warping of clouds accelerated into a visible tear in reality itself, a vertical rift of swirling energy that cast prismatic light across the recovering village. Naruto sensed it first, his new abilities allowing him to feel the fundamental wrongness in the fabric of reality. He stood atop the Hokage monument, watching as the rift widened. What is it? Sakura asked, having joined him for what was supposed to be a peaceful moment overlooking their home. A boundary failing, Naruto replied, knowledge not his own flowing through his consciousness. The convergence Tsukuyomi no Mikoto foresaw. The veils between worlds growing thin. From the rift emerged strange energies, not chakra as they knew it, but something similar yet fundamentally different. It resonated with Naruto's blood in unexpected ways, calling to him like a distant melody. I need to investigate this, he decided, preparing to leap toward the anomaly. Not alone, you don't, came a familiar voice. Kakashi appeared beside them, his visible eye creased in concern. Whatever that thing is, it's affecting chakra networks throughout the village. Some sensors are already unconscious from the strain. Other shinobi gathered, the remnants of the Konoha 11, Anbu squads. And sensors specialized in barrier techniques. Even Nagato and Konan joined them, their expertise in dimensional jutsu potentially valuable. As they approached the rift, another figure arrived. Yugito Ni, the two-tails Jinchuriki from Kumogakure. You sense it too, she stated rather than asked, her feline eyes fixed on Naruto rather than the spatial anomaly. Something calling to the beasts within us. Naruto nodded. Matabi and Kurama, ancient siblings, recognized something in the energy signature, a resonance with powers that predated even their creation. The other Jinchuriki? Naruto questioned. Yugito's expression darkened. Most captured by Akatsuki already. I escaped because. She hesitated. Because Matabi and I achieved perfect synchronization during the extraction attempt. It created something new, something they weren't prepared for. Like Naruto, Yugito had undergone a transformation, though less dramatic. Her pupils had become permanently slitted. Her movements possessed feline grace, and blue flames occasionally danced along her fingertips even without conscious summoning. The rift pulsed, expanding suddenly and releasing a shockwave that knocked unprepared shinobi off their feet. Naruto and Yugito remained standing, their enhanced physiology absorbing the impact. It's calling us specifically, Yugito realized, taking an involuntary step forward. The resonance between our transformed states and whatever lies beyond. We need to seal it, Kakashi decided, already forming hand signs for a containment jutsu. Naruto, stay back, if it's targeting Jinchuriki. But even as he spoke, tendrils of energy lashed out from the rift, wrapping around both Naruto and Yugito. Unlike the others, they could see the tendrils for what they truly were, streams of pure life force, the essence that their respective deities fed upon. Blood and fire, Naruto murmured, understanding flowing through his transformed consciousness. The fundamental elements of life across all dimensions. Sakura lunged forward, chakra-enhanced fist aimed at the tendrils holding Naruto. Her hand passed through them as though they weren't physically present. I can't touch them, she cried in frustration. Because they exist in multiple realities simultaneously, Nagato explained, his Rinnegan perceiving layers of the phenomenon invisible to others. This isn't a simple space-time ninjutsu. It's a fundamental breach between dimensions. The pull intensified. Naruto felt his body lifting, drawn inexorably toward the rift. Yugito experienced the same, blue flames erupting around her as Matabi responded to the extra-dimensional threat. Naruto, Sakura screamed, reaching for him even as he rose beyond her grasp. Making an instant decision, Naruto extended his hand. A thin stream of blood flowed from his palm, connecting him to Sakura like a crimson lifeline. I'll find my way back, he promised, his voice carrying absolute certainty. No matter what lies beyond, I'll return. The blood link snapped as the dimensional forces grew too strong. Naruto and Yugito, the transformed Jinchuriki, were pulled into the swirling vortex. Their friends' desperate faces disappeared as reality itself collapsed around them. Passage between dimensions cannot be described in terms of conventional physics. For Naruto and Yugito, the experience manifested as a kaleidoscopic journey through layers of existence, infinite possibilities, parallel realities, worlds where chakra never existed and others where it took forms unimaginable in their native dimension. Throughout the transition, Naruto maintained consciousness through Tsukuyomi no Mikoto's transcendent nature. The vampire deity had existed partially beyond mortal reality even before being sealed, allowing Naruto to perceive the dimensional boundaries they crossed. Fascinating, came the ancient voice in his mind. The convergence is more complex than even I foresaw. Multiple worlds colliding at critical junctures. Focus on survival rather than metaphysics, Kurama growled. The boy's body is being stretched across realities. Even our combined essence has limits. Naruto sensed Yugito nearby, or as nearby as concepts like proximity could apply in this non-space. Matabi's flames provided a beacon he could follow, a constant amid the chaotic dimensional flux. After what might have been moments or millennia, the disorienting journey ended with shocking abruptness. Naruto crashed into solid ground, the impact sending waves of pain through a body that had momentarily forgotten the constraints of physical form. Cold air filled his lungs, crisp, clean, and carrying scents utterly foreign to his experience. The smells of ice, salt water, and fish predominated. But underneath lay unfamiliar flora, fauna, and human settlements that bore no resemblance to any place in the 5 great nations. Opening his eyes, Naruto found himself sprawled on a snowy beach. Dark water lapped at ice-crusted shores, and in the distance, strange angular structures rose from the whiteness, buildings made primarily of what appeared to be packed snow and ice. Yugito lay several meters away, her body smoking slightly as Matabi's flames fought against the extreme cold. Unlike Naruto, whose vampire aspects provided resistance to temperature extremes, the cat-based Jinchuriki was particularly vulnerable to this frozen environment. Rising unsteadily, Naruto made his way to her side. His blood manipulation created a barrier of warmth around them both, using the natural heat of vital fluid to combat the frigid conditions. "Where are we?" Yugito managed through chattering teeth. "Another world entirely," Naruto replied, helping her stand. "The dimensional rift connected to this reality specifically, which means there must be something here that resonates with our transformed states." They surveyed their surroundings more carefully. Beyond ice structures stood steep mountains unlike any in their homeland, formations that spoke of different geological processes entirely. The sky above held constellations neither recognized, and 2 Ns, one significantly larger than the other, hung in the midday sky, a physical impossibility in their native dimension. "We need shelter and information," Yugito stated practically, her shinobi trainee asserting itself despite the extraordinary circumstances. Movement from the ice structures drew their attention. Human figures approached cautiously, a group of about 10 individuals dressed in thick blue furs, moving with the confident grace of warriors on familiar terrain. "Locals," Naruto observed. "Let's hope they're friendly." As the group drew closer, details became clearer. They were predominantly dark-haired with bronzed skin and blue eyes, dressed in expertly tailored winter clothing decorated with intricate patterns. Most carried weapons, clubs and spears primarily, though Naruto's enhanced vision detected water pouches at several belts, an odd choice of equipment for combat. At their forefront walked a young woman who couldn't have been more than 15 or 16 years old. Despite her youth, the others deferred to her authority. Her stance spoke of combat training, and her eyes, a particularly vibrant shade of blue, assessed the strangers with wary intelligence. "Who are you? And how did you reach our shores?" she called out in a language that, impossibly, Naruto and Yugito understood perfectly. Another effect of the dimensional transition, languages aligned to facilitate comprehension where communication was necessary. Naruto stepped forward, deliberately keeping his hands visible and his posture non-threatening. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. This is Yugito ni. We've come from very far away. Through means we don't fully understand ourselves." The young woman's eyes narrowed, focusing particularly on their unusual clothing and Naruto's distinctive coloring. "Those aren't Fire Nation colors or Earth Kingdom styles. Are you from another water tribe we haven't had contact with?" The terms meant nothing to the dimensional travelers, but Naruto recognized the diplomatic opening. "In a manner of speaking, our tribe is indeed unknown to yours. We were transported here unexpectedly and seek temporary shelter while we determine our situation." Leader conferred briefly with an older woman at her side before turning back to the strangers. "I am Katara of the Southern Water Tribe. If you truly mean no harm, we can offer basic hospitality." Understand this. Her posture shifted subtly, hands moving to the water containers at her belt. "I will protect my people from any threat." There was something in her stance, in the way the water in those pouches seemed to respond to her very presence, that triggered recognition in Naruto's transformed consciousness. Tsukuyomi no Makoto's ancient knowledge stirred. Water manipulator, came the deity's voice in Naruto's mind. But not through chakra. The fundamental energies of this world are channeled differently, through the elements themselves rather than through internal networks. You're a waterbender, Naruto stated. The term plucked from the vampire god's analysis of this world's energy patterns. Katara's surprise was evident. "You know of bending, yet claim to come from an unknown tribe." Her suspicion visibly increased. Thinking quickly, Yugito intervened. Our knowledge comes from old stories and legends. We've never actually seen bending performed. This seemed to satisfy Katara temporarily. Very well. Follow us, but stay where we can see you. Gran will want to speak with you, and my brother Sokka will have many questions. As they followed the tribe contingent toward the ice structures, igloos, Naruto's borrowed knowledge supplied, he and Yugito exchanged meaningful glances. Whatever this world was, however they had arrived here, they now faced the immediate challenge of integration without revealing their true nature or capabilities until they better understood the local power dynamics. The Southern Water Tribe settlement proved to be smaller than it had appeared from a distance, perhaps 20 structures housing no more than 100 people total. Most were women, children, and elderly, with a noticeable absence of men in their prime. Their warriors are gone, Yugito observed quietly. This place has been affected by conflict. Naruto nodded, his enhanced senses detecting subtle signs of recent reconstruction, defensive preparations, and the unique tension of a community that had experienced trauma. They were led to the largest igloo in the central area. Inside, an elderly woman waited, her deeply lined face speaking of both hardship and wisdom. Elaborate knotwork in her gray hair indicated high status within the tribe. Gran, these strangers appeared on our shore, Katara explained. They called themselves Naruto and Yugito, and claimed to come from an unknown tribe. The old woman, Gran, studied them with penetrating eyes that belied her age. No one simply appears on our shores. The nearest lands are days of sailing away. Yet there is no ship, and your clothes are dry. Her perceptiveness impressed Naruto. Our arrival was unusual. We were caught in a phenomenon that transported us here against our will. Spirit magic. A male voice interjected as a teenage boy entered the igloo. Similar in features to Katara but slightly older, he carried himself with the exaggerated confidence of someone thrust into leadership too young. Just what we need. More supernatural complications. Sokka, Katara chided, though her expression suggested she shared some of his wariness. Gran raised a hand for silence. Whether by spirits or other means, you are here now. The question is what you bring with you, help or harm for a tribe already struggling to survive. The directness of the question deserved equal honesty. We bring no intentional harm, Naruto answered. We seek to understand this world and find a way back to our own. In the meantime, we offer whatever assistance we can provide in exchange for shelter and guidance. Quote, your own world, Sokka repeated incredulously. See, this is exactly the kind of crazy talk that. Sokka, Gran interrupted firmly. The spirit world and ours have always been connected. These are strange times, with the Avatar returned and the comet approaching. We must keep open minds. The terms triggered another wave of borrowed knowledge from Tsukuyomi no Mikoto. The Avatar, this world's greatest power, master of all elemental manipulations. The comet, a celestial event that would enhance fire manipulation abilities to devastating levels. You mentioned the Avatar, Naruto said carefully. Has he truly returned? The atmosphere in the igloo instantly shifted. Guards who had remained respectfully near the entrance tensed, hands moving to weapons. Katara stepped forward, her stance now openly defensive. How do you know of the Avatar if you're from another world? She demanded, suspicion hardening her young features. Naruto silently cursed his mistake. Clearly, the Avatar was a sensitive topic with geopolitical implications he didn't yet understand. Yugito smoothly intervened once again. In our world, there are stories of bridges between worlds, individuals who can communicate with spirits and maintain balance. We called them different names, but when you mentioned Avatar, we recognized the concept. The explanation as plausible enough to relax the immediate tension, though wariness remained. Naruto made a mental note to follow Yugito's lead in diplomatic matters. Her experience as Kumogakure's ambassador served him well in these unfamiliar circumstances. The Avatar has indeed returned, Gran confirmed, her voice lowered as though sharing a precious secret. After 100 years, when most believed the cycle broken, young Aang has emerged from the ice. Katara and Sokka found him and now travel with him to master the elements. He's not here, Naruto asked, noting the siblings' presence. We returned temporarily for supplies. Katara explained. Aang is training nearby with his flying bison. The casual reference to an impossible creature, a flying bison, further emphasized how fundamentally different this world was from their own. 100-year absence is significant, Yugito noted. What occurred during that time? The question opened floodgates of historical information. The 100-Year War, the Fire Nation's aggression, the systematic elimination of the air nomads, and the ongoing resistance from the Earth Kingdom and Water tribes. Sokka and Katara took turns explaining, our personal losses, particularly their mother, adding emotional weight to the historical account. As they spoke, Naruto sensed something beyond the igloo, a massive life force approaching rapidly, accompanied by a smaller but somehow more complex energy signature. His eyes met Yugito's, confirming she felt it too. Your friend returns, Naruto stated, interrupting the historical narrative. Sokka stopped mid-sentence, suspicion returning. How could you possibly know that? Before either dimensional traveler could fabricate an explanation, a cheerful voice called from outside, Katara. Sokka, why? I'll never believe what Appa and I found while practicing airbending. The igloo entrance parted to admit a young boy, no more than 12 years old, with distinctive arrow tattoos adorning his bald head and limbs. Despite his youth, the energy emanating from him nearly overwhelmed Naruto's supernatural senses. This child contained multitudes, countless lives and experiences layered within a single soul. The Avatar. Tsukuyomi no Mikoto whispered in Naruto's mind. A soul reincarnated through the ages, carrying the accumulated power and knowledge of past lives. Similar to a Jinchuriki, yet fundamentally different. Fascinating. The boy, Aang, stopped short upon seeing the strangers. His initial wariness transformed almost instantly into open curiosity. Oh, hello, new friends. The straightforward greeting, devoid of the suspicion shown by the Water Tribe members, spoke volumes about the Avatar's character. We're not sure yet, Sokka replied cautiously. They just appeared on our shores, claiming to be from another world entirely. Rather than dismissing this extraordinary statement, Aang's eyes widened with excitement. Another world? Really? I've visited the spirit world. But I've never met anyone from a completely different reality. His immediate acceptance of the possibility threw Naruto off balance. In their world, such claims would be met with extreme skepticism at best, hostility at worst. Yet this child, this avatar, simply incorporated the concept into his worldview without resistance. I'm Aang, he continued, bowing formally in a style that differed from any greeting Naruto recognized. These are my friends Katara and Sokka, and that's Gran, and outside is my flying bison Appa, and somewhere around here is Momo, my lemur. The rapid introduction, delivered with genuine enthusiasm, drew reluctant smiles from even the wary Water Tribe members. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. This is Yugito ni. Aang studied them with surprising intensity. There's something different about your energies. Not like any benders have met, but not like regular people either. His perceptiveness startled both Jinchuriki. This child could sense their supernatural nature without any visible effort. We have abilities in our world, Naruto acknowledged carefully. They may function differently here. Can you show us? Aang asked eagerly, always ready for new discoveries. Katara placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. Aang, maybe that's not the best idea until we know more about them. But how will we learn more unless they show us something? The Aang avatar countered with impeccable 12-year-old logic. Naruto considered their options. A limited demonstration might establish trust, but revealing too much could create complications if their abilities were misinterpreted as threatening. Perhaps something small, he suggested, looking to Gran for permission. The elder woman nodded cautiously. Proceed, but understand we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Naruto raised his hand, palm upward. With careful concentration, modulating his power to its lowest setting, he summoned a small sphere of his own blood. It emerged from his palm without leaving a wound, forming a perfect crimson orb that hovered inches above his skin. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Katara gasped, stepping backward instinctively. Her hands moved to her water pouches in what appeared to be a reflexive defensive posture. Bloodbending, she whispered, the term laden with fear and revulsion. Naruto instantly reabsorbed the blood, recognizing he'd made a cultural misstep. I apologize. In our world, this ability has different connotations. Bloodbending is forbidden, Katara stated, her voice tight with emotion. It's the darkest form of waterbending, used to control others against their will. The revelation explained her reaction, and illuminated a critical aspect of this world's power structure. What came naturally to Naruto through his vampire transformation represented a taboo here, associated with coercion and violation of autonomy. I would never use this ability to control another person, Naruto assured her firmly. In my world, blood manipulation has healing applications, protective uses, but never domination. Yugito stepped forward, offering a different demonstration. Blue flames danced along her tips, Matabi's fire manifesting in a controlled, non-threatening display. We each have different abilities. Some may align with your bending arts, others may be entirely foreign. The fire demonstration elicited a different reaction. Sokka tensed, gripping his weapon. Blue fire, like that crazy Fire Nation princess. Azula, Katara confirmed, equally wary. The most dangerous firebender we've encountered. Again, an innocent demonstration had stumbled into complex political territory. This world's conflicts colored perceptions of even basic abilities. Aang, however, approached the situation with characteristic openness. But their energies don't feel malicious. He circled Naruto and Yugito, studying them with increasingly evident fascination. It's like, they have inner fires like firebenders. But also something flowing like waterbenders, and there's a solidity like earthbenders, and a freedom like airbenders. But all mixed together in ways I haven't felt before. His assessment was surprisingly accurate. Chakra incorporated aspects of all elements, bound together through life force in ways this world's separated, bending, disciplines did not. In our world, Naruto explained, seizing the opportunity. We don't separate the elements as you do. Our power, chakra, combines aspects of all elements, channeled through our life force. Chakra, Katara repeated, her scholarly interest temporarily overcoming her wariness. We use that term differently. For us, chakras are energy points within the body that can be blocked or opened. Another connection between worlds, similar concepts with divergent applications. The pattern suggested that despite the dimensional barriers, fundamental principles of energy and life force remained constant across realities. Gran, who had observed silently throughout the demonstrations, finally spoke. Whatever powers you possess, whatever world you come from, you now find yourselves in the midst of our war. The question remains, are you allies, enemies, or merely observers passing through? The directness deserved equal honesty. We seek to return to our world, Naruto stated, but while we're here, we won't stand idle in the face of injustice. We won't interfere in matters we don't understand, but neither will we refuse aid where it's clearly needed. The old woman nodded, satisfied with the balanced response. Then for now, you may remain as guests of the Southern Water Tribe. Time will reveal your true nature and purpose here. As the formal audience concluded, practical matters took precedence: accommodation, food, appropriate clothing for the harsh environment. The Water Tribe, despite their limited resources, provided for their mysterious visitors with remarkable generosity. That evening, as the polar night descended, Naruto stood alone at the village's edge, gazing at the unfamiliar stars. Katara approached cautiously, maintaining a respectful distance. Your bloodbending, she began without preamble. It's different from what I've encountered. Naruto nodded. The terminology creates misconceptions. I don't control others' blood. I manipulate my own, and only with consent would I ever influence another's blood for healing purposes. Katara's expression remained troubled. You don't understand. In our world, bloodbending is considered irredeemably corrupt. It was developed by a waterbender imprisoned for decades, driven to extremes by Fire Nation cruelty. She hesitated, then added in a whisper, I've been forced to learn it myself, though I've sworn never to use it again. The personal admission explained her visceral reaction. This wasn't merely cultural taboo, it was personal trauma. In my world, Naruto replied gently, blood contains life force, memories, connection. Being that now shares my body, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, was once worshipped as a deity of blood, but not in the sense of violence or control. Blood represented covenant, kinship, the ties that bind communities together. That's a very different perspective, Katara acknowledged, her stance relaxing slightly. But how can something so invasive ever be considered positive? Because intention changes everything, Naruto answered. To demonstrate, he summoned a small amount of his blood again, this time shaping it into a delicate lotus flower that caught the moonlight like a living ruby sculpture. The same power that could harm can heal, protect, create beauty. The choice lies not in the ability but in the heart of the wielder. Katara watched the blood lotus with conflicted emotions evident in her expression. The moon strengthens your abilities too, she observed, noting how the blood responded more fluidly under the moonlight. Like waterbending. Perhaps our worlds aren't as different as they first appear, Naruto suggested. Different terminology, different applications, but underlying principles that rhyme across dimensions. The young waterbender tentatively reached toward the blood lotus, stopping just short of touching it. Would you show me more? Not to practice, just to understand. The request represented a significant extension of trust. Of course, knowledge never harms, only ignorance. Quote, as the moons rose higher over the ice-bound village, Naruto demonstrated the fundamentals of his blood manipulation, carefully distinguishing it from this world's forbidden bloodbending. Katara, in turn, showed him the basic forms of waterbending, movements that, surprisingly, resonated with certain shinobi techniques from his world. When Aang joined them later, drawn by curiosity, the impromptu cultural exchange expanded. The young avatar demonstrated airbending forms that Naruto recognized as similar to certain wind-release techniques. Yugito eventually appeared as well, contributing observations about how Matabi's fire differed from this world's firebending. Under the alien stars, bridges formed between dimensions, tentative understanding forged through shared knowledge rather than shared origins. Whatever cosmic force had drawn them to this world, whatever purpose lay behind the dimensional convergence, the foundations for cooperation had been established. Yet as the others eventually retired to their accommodations, Naruto remained alone beneath the moons, his enhanced senses detecting something beyond normal perception, ripples in reality itself. Aftereffects of the dimensional transit that had brought them here. The rift hadn't fully closed, it had merely narrowed beyond visibility. The convergence continues, Tsukuyomi no Makoto's voice echoed in his mind. This is merely the beginning. More will follow. Great. Kurama growled. As if one strange world wasn't enough trouble. Naruto gazed toward the Horis, on where he sensed the dimensional disturbance pulsing like a distant heartbeat. Whatever comes through next, he murmured, I hope it's friendly. But the blood god's ancient wisdom and Naruto's intuition suggested that hope might be in vain. The multiverse rarely yielded its secrets without exacting a price, and dimensional boundaries weren't meant to be breached without consequence. In the distance, beneath the ice where no human eyes could see, something stirred, awakened by the ripples of otherworldly energy. Ancient, patient, and hungry. The blood sage had arrived in a world of benders. But he wasn't the only predator to cross the dimensional threshold. The convergence had only just begun. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Worlds Apart. Morning broke over the southern water tribe, light spilling across ice structures in prismatic rainbows. Naruto stood atop a glacier overlooking the village, his enhanced vision allowing him to track the hunters moving across the ice floes in the distance. 3 days had passed since their arrival in this strange world. 3 days of careful observation, information gathering, and gradual trust building with their reluctant hosts. Yugito appeared beside him, moving with silent feline grace that would impress even the most skilled Anbu. The Avatar and his friends are preparing to leave, she reported. They've loaded supplies onto their flying bison. Even after witnessing the massive six-legged creature soar through the air, neither shinobi could quite normalize the concept. Their world had summons and strange beasts, certainly. But nothing that defied fundamental principles of nature so casually. They're heading north, Naruto noted, sensing Katara's distinctive water-aligned energy as she secured cargo in Appa's saddle. To find an earthbending teacher for Aang. And you intend to accompany them. It wasn't a question. Yugito had observed Naruto's growing fascination with this world's energy manipulation, particularly the young waterbender's techniques, which resonated with his transformed abilities. The dimensional rift is moving, he confirmed, gesturing toward the horizon where only his and Yugito's enhance. D senses could detect the subtle distortion in reality. Following the Avatar's path, we need to understand why. Yugito's lips curved in a slight smile. And your interest has nothing to do with the waterbender girl who spends every evening questioning you about bloodbending. Naruto's pale features remained impassive, but the faintest tinge of color touched his cheeks. Katara views blood manipulation as inherently corrupt. I'm merely offering an alternative perspective. Of course, Yugito replied, unconvinced. Just as my demonstrations of Matabi's flame are purely educational for the Avatar's airbending practice. Their banter, comfortable in a way that surprised them both, reflected how quickly they'd adapted to their shared circumstances. As the only travelers from their dimension, they'd formed an alliance that transcended their village's historical tensions. Kumo and Konoha politics seemed irrelevant across dimensional boundaries. We should join them before they depart, Naruto decided. Turning from the vista, the longer we remain in this world, the more likely others will follow through the weakened barrier. You believe more shinobi will cross over? Yugito asked, matching his pace as they descended toward the village. Not just shinobi, Naruto replied grimly. Tsukuyomi no Mikoto senses other entities stirring, ancient powers responding to the dimensional disturbance. The convergence affects all realities touching the breach. The conversation paused as they reached the village center where the departure preparations were underway. Sokka directed the loading process with excessive officiousness, compensating for his lack of bending abilities with organizational zeal. Katara alternated between helping and mediating her brother's conflicts with the perpetually cheerful Aang, who seemed more interested in playing with the local children than preparing for their journey. Gran intercepted Naruto and Yugito before they reached the others. You intend to travel with them, she stated with the same directness that had characterized all their interactions. Naruto bowed respectfully. With your blessing, our path seems linked to the Avatars for reasons we don't fully understand. Quote, the elder studied them with eyes that had witnessed nearly a century of hardship. When Katara found the boy in the ice, I warned her that her destiny would never be the same. I offer the same warning to you. Following the Avatar means walking into the heart of a century-old conflict. We're familiar with war, Yugito replied softly. Our world has known little else for generations. Gran nodded, seemingly satisfied. Then take these. She presented each with carefully crafted water tribe outer garments, parkas lined with seal fur, gloves, and boots designed for diverse climates. Your strange clothing marks you as outsiders. These will help you blend more easily in your travels. The practical gifts carried significant meaning, acceptance, if not complete trust. Naruto accepted his with profound gratitude. Your generosity honors us. Keep them safe, Gran said simply, glancing toward her grandchildren. They carry the world's hopes. As they approached the massive sky bison, Aang spotted them and launched himself through the air with impossible agility, landing directly in their path with an enormous grin. You're coming with us? He asked excitedly. That's great. We can learn all about your chakra techniques, and you can see earthbending and firebending, and if they're coming, they need to help pack, Sokka interrupted, staggering under the weight of a particularly unwieldy bundle. Less talking, more lifting. Katara approached more cautiously, her expression conflicted. Since their moonlight conversation about bloodbending, she'd maintained a complex relationship with Naruto, intensely curious about his abilities yet instinctively wary of their implications. Are you sure following us is wise? She asked quietly. We're not exactly traveling inconspicuously, and the Fire Nation has spies everywhere. The dimensional disturbance follows your path, Naruto explained. Wherever the Avatar goes, the rift between worlds seems to follow. We need to understand why. This information visibly concerned her. You think more people from your world might come through? Or worse, Yugito interjected. Dimensional weakening rarely affects only two worlds. Multiple realities could be intersecting. Sokka groaned, overhearing the conversation. Great. Not content with one world's problems, we're now collecting them from multiple dimensions. This trip just keeps getting better. Despite his complaints, the Water Tribe warrior had proven surprisingly adaptable to extraordinary circumstances. His practical skepticism provided a necessary counterbalance to Aang's enthusiastic acceptance of every new discovery. With the dimensional traveler's assistance, the remaining supplies were quickly secured. As the village gathered to bid farewell to their young heroes, Naruto observed the complex emotions at play. Pride mingled with fear, hope tempered by the knowledge that these children carried burdens no one their age should bear. Not unlike the shinobi system, he reflected grimly. Both worlds weaponized their young, albeit in different ways. Yip yip, Aang called, and the massive bison launched. Head skyward with surprising grace for a creature of its size. Naruto and Yugito maintained perfect balance despite the sudden ascent, their shinobi training evident in their effortless adaptation to the unusual mode of transportation. Show-offs, Sokka muttered, having tumbled unceremoniously into the saddle at takeoff. As they gained altitude, the true desolation of the southern water tribe Ritari became apparent. Endless ice extending to the horizon, broken only by the small cluster of dwellings they'd just departed. The isolation explained much about the community's resilience and tight-knit nature. Your home has suffered greatly in this war, Yugito observed to Katara, who sat gazing back at the diminishing village. The young waterbender nodded. The Fire Nation raids took all our benders, except me. They killed my mother because she was protecting me. The pain in her voice remained raw despite the passage of years. Targeted elimination of bloodline abilities, Yugito noted clinically. Then softened her tone at Katara's surprised look. Forgive me. In our world, such strategies are common in conflicts. You speak of genocide as a tactical decision, Katara replied. A new wariness entering her expression. I speak of what I know, Yugito countered evenly. Our world's wars rarely differentiate between combatants and civilians when bloodline abilities are involved. The strong devour the weak. That has been the way of the shinobi world. That's horrible, Aang exclaimed from his position at Appa's reins. Despite focusing on guiding the bison, he clearly monitored all conversations with his enhanced airbender hearing. It is, Naruto agreed, surprising Yugito. Our world normalized cruelty under the guise of pragmatism. We train children to kill before they understand what death means. We celebrate techniques designed specifically to inflict suffering. His transformed eyes met Aang's. Your resistance to taking life, even enemy life, in my world, would be considered a dangerous weakness rather than a moral strength. The young avatar looked troubled by this assessment. But how can peace ever come from violence? That question, Naruto replied, has consumed the brightest minds of our world for generations without resolution. The conversation lapsed into uncomfortable silence as they continued northward. The moral gulf between their worlds had suddenly widened from abstract concept to tangible reality. Aang's pacifistic air nomad philosophy stood in stark contrast to the shinobi world's utilitarian acceptance of violence as a necessary tool. Sokka, surprisingly, broke the tension. Look, different worlds, different rules. What matters is what you choose to do here and now. His pragmatic assessment cut through the philosoph. Ikal quandary with refreshing directness. Are you going to help us stop the Fire Nation from burning everything to the ground, or not? We'll help, Naruto confirmed. Though our methods may sometimes differ from yours. As long as those methods don't involve controlling people like puppets, Katara added pointedly. Naruto met her gaze steadily. Blood is life, Katara. In my transformed state, I perceive it as sacred, not a tool for domination. Transformed state. Sokka latched onto the phrase immediately. What exactly does that mean? Are you some kind of spirit creature pretending to be human? The question cut closer to truth than comfortable. Naruto exchanged glances with Yugito, weighing how much to reveal. In our world, he began carefully, there exist entities of great tailed beasts created from the primordial energy of our reality. I contain one such being, the nine-tailed fox, sealed within me since birth. Like a spirit possession, Aang asked, his NCE with the avatar state giving him a framework for understanding. Similar, yet different, Naruto explained. Kurama, the nine tails, was sealed inside me as an infant. Recently, another entity joined us, a deity of blood and moonlight. Ancient even by the standards of our world. The merger transformed me, granting abilities beyond normal shinobi limits. And you? Katara asked Yugito. I contain Matabi, the two-tailed cat. She replied simply, though my transformation was less dramatic than Naruto's, lacking the divine component. Sokka rubbed his temples. Spirit monsters inside people, blood gods, dimensional rifts. I miss the days when our biggest problem was finding enough seal jerky for winter. Actually, Aang interjected cheerfully, it's kind of like my connection to my past lives. I can access their knowledge and power through the avatar state. Naruto considered this comparison. Perhaps that's why the dimensional rift follows you. Your connection to multiple lives creates a naturally occurring weak point between realities. This theory visibly concerned Aang. You think I'm causing these rifts? Not intentionally, Yugito clarified. But significant power concentrations often create unexpected effects. In our world, certain locations where chakra naturally gathers become distorted over time, developing unique properties. Like the spirit oases, Katara realized. Places where the boundary between worlds is naturally thinner. The parallels between their realities continued to emerge, different manifestations of similar underlying principles. Whatever cosmic architecture underpinned the multiverse, certain patterns repeated across dimensional boundaries. Their philosophical discussion ended abruptly as Appa descended toward a small island for rest. The massive bison could fly for impressive distances but required regular food and recovery periods. We'll camp here tonight, Aang announced, guiding Appa to a sheltered beach. We're acting good time toward the Earth Kingdom mainland. As they established camp with practiced efficiency, Naruto observed the group dynamics with interest. Despite their youth, the Avatar and his companions functioned as a well-coordinated team, Sokka handling hunting and security, Katara managing food preparation and organization, Aang tending to Appa and gathering firewood with his airbending. The complementary skills reflected many missions Naruto had undertaken with various Konoha teams. Yet critical differences remained. Team Avatar operated without formal hierarchy or command structure. Their decisions emerged through consensus rather than authority. Most strikingly, their interactions retained genuine warmth and affection untainted by the professional distance shinobi teams typically maintained. As evening descended, Naruto found himself drawn to the shoreline, watching the unfamiliar constellations emerge above this alien ocean. The moons rose, the larger one nearly full, seeing his blood manipulation abilities with its resonant energy. Does the moon affect your powers too? Katara asked, approaching quietly to stand beside him. Yes, Naruto confirmed. Tsukuyomi no. Makoto was originally a lunar deity before becoming associated with blood. The connection remains. Katara looked thoughtful. Our moon is the physical manifestation of the moon spirit, Tui. Her counterpart, La the ocean spirit, moves eternally in balance with her. Push and pull, Naruto murmured, the concept resonating with his understanding of natural energy flow. In our world, we recognize similar principles, yin and yang. Creation and destruction, always in dynamic tension. That's why your blood manipulation bothers me, Katara admitted after a moment. It disrupts that natural balance. Taking control of another's life force, it feels fundamentally wrong. Rather than immediately defending his abilities, Naruto considered her perspective. When you heal with waterbending, you influence another's body without their conscious participation. What distinguishes that from bloodbending in your mind? The question wasn't confrontational but genuinely curious. Katara seemed surprised by his willingness to engage with her concerns rather than dismiss them. Healing works with the body's natural processes, encouraging them rather than overriding them, she explained. Bloody ending imposes the bender's will against the natural functioning of the target's body. Intent matters, Naruto suggested. The same action performed with different intentions yields different moral outcomes. Yes, but some powers are so inherently invasive that intent can't fully mitigate their nature, Katara countered, warming to the philosophical debate. Bloodbending was developed specifically to dominate others. While my blood manipulation developed from communion with a deity whose domain includes blood as life force, covenant, and connection, Naruto replied. Similar abilities, fundamentally different origins and purposes. Katara seemed about to respond when Yugito's voice cut through the darkness. Movement in the forest, multiple signatures approaching the camp. The casual philosophical discussion vanished instantly as both shifted to combat readiness. Naruto's enhanced senses immediately detected what had alerted Yugito, the distinctive rhythm of disciplined troops moving through underbrush with attempted stealth. Fire Nation, Katara whispered, recognizing the threat from Yugito's warning. They returned to camp swiftly, finding Sokka already alert and Aang rousing from sleep. Yugito stood at the perimeter, her posture relaxed yet alert in the way only trained combatants could manage, ready for instant action while appearing casual to untrained observers. Patrol ship must have spotted Appa, Sokka surmised, quickly gathering essential supplies. Standard search party configuration, probably 15 to 20 soldiers. We should leave, Aang suggested, moving toward Appa. We can be airborne before they reach us. The updrafts over water are treacherous at night, Katara reminded him. Appa could lose altitude and drop us into the ocean. Naruto assessed the tactical situation with cold efficiency. How important is avoiding detection? If remaining unidentified takes priority, escape makes sense. If you regularly engage Fire Nation forces, confrontation may be more practical. Quote, the question highlighted another cultural difference. In the shinobi world, engagement versus evasion would be decided purely on mission parameters. Team Ava, Tar's decision-making process involved more complex considerations, including Aang's reluctance to harm opponents and Katara's personal vendetta against Fire Nation troops. We can handle a search party, Sokka decided after brief consideration. But we need to prevent any messengers from reporting back. Naruto nodded, impressed by the strategic awareness. For all his comedic complaining, Sokka possessed a tactical mind that would serve him well in shinobi operations. Yugito and I will ensure no communications leave this island, Naruto stated, the promise carrying implied lethality that made Aang visibly uncomfortable. We don't kill Fire Nation soldiers, the young Avatar insisted. They're just following orders. The shinobi exchanged glances, another cultural gulf opening between them. In their world, enemy combatants were eliminated as a matter of course. The idea of systematically sparing opposition forces would be considered tactically unsound at best, suicidally naive at worst. We'll adapt to your protocols, Yugito conceded, though her tone suggested professional disagreement. Non-lethal neutralization only. Naruto extended his senses, mapping the approaching T-Roots positions through their blood signatures. 17 combatants total, 4 firebenders among them, distinguishable by their elevated body temperature and distinctive Kai flow. Katara looked startled. You can sense that much detail. Blood speaks volumes to those who know how to listen, Naruto replied simply. They've split into 3 groups to surround our position. Standard envelopment strategy. Sokka's expression shifted between impressed and unsettled. That's both incredibly useful and seriously creepy. We need a plan. Katara refocused the conversation. I'll create a diversion to draw their attention, Aang offered, reaching for his glider staff. Once they're focused on me, you can. No, Naruto interrupted with unexpected authority. Splitting their attention works to our advantage. Let them execute their envelopment, then collapse the perimeter on our terms. The strategy reflected shinobi ambush tactics rather than the direct confrontations Team Avatar typically employed. Sokka grasped the concept immediately, a grin spreading across his face. Let the hunters become the hunted, he summarized with evident approval. I like how you think, Blood Boy. Positions were quickly assigned. Aang and Katara would engage the largest group directly, using their bending to create maximum visual disruption. Sokka would handle the smallest contingent with his boomerang and club. Naruto and Yugito would neutralize the firebenders, the greatest tactical threat, using their enhanced abilities. As the Fire Nation troops converged on the seemingly unprepared camp, Naruto melted into the shadows with shinobi stealth that even Yugito found impressive. His transformation had enhanced his natural infiltration abilities, allowing him to move without disturbing so much as a blade of grass. The firebenders advanced with typical Fire Nation arrogance, confident in their superiority, paying minimal attention to potential counterambush. Their focus remained entirely on the camp where Aang had created a convincing sleeping dummy using spare clothing and bags. Naruto positioned himself in the path of 2 firebenders who had separated slightly from their non-bending escorts. When they passed beneath his tree perch, he descended in complete silence, landing behind them without disturbing a single leaf. You sense that, one firebender murmured to his companion, some instinct warning him of the predator at his back. Before either could turn, Naruto executed his attack, not with kunai or shuriken, but with his blood. Twin streams emerged from his palms, snaking through the air to wrap around the soldiers' throats. Not choking, not harming, simply covering their mouths and noses with a blood film that prevented both speech and firebending breath control. Their eyes widened in panic as they struggled against restraints unlike anything in their experience. Naruto stepped forward, finally allowing himself to be seen. "Sleep," he commanded, manipulating the blood to press precisely on carotid arteries, restricting blood flow to the brain just enough to induce unconsciousness without harm. The firebenders collapsed without raising alarm, their bodies gently lowered to the forest floor by Naruto's blood tendrils. Across the clearing, blue flames illuminated the night as Yugito engaged the other firebenders. Unlike Naruto's silent approach, she had opted for psychological warfare, allowing her targets to see her eyes glowing in darkness, hear Matabi's growl emanating from a seemingly human throat. From the beach came the distinctive sounds of waterbending as Katara engaged her opponents. Massive waves crashed against the shore, followed by the crystalline tinkling of flash-frozen ice encasing struggling soldiers. The ambush was executed with perfect precision, right until a stray fire blast from one of Yugito's opponents ignited the underbrush, illuminating the battlefield and revealing their positions to the remaining troops. "So much for stealth," Sokka's voice carried from somewhere to Naruto's left, followed by the distinctive sound of his boomerang connecting with an unfortunate soldier's helmet. With their positional advantage compromised, Naruto abandoned subtle tactics. Rising to his full height, he called forth more of his blood, creating a swirling crimson sphere above his palm that cast ruby light across the clearing. The effect on the Fire Nation troops was immediate and unexpected. Several dropped their weapons, faces contorted in superstitious terror. "Blood demon," one cried, stumbling backward. "It's the Crimson Spirit." The reaction puzzled Naruto until understanding flowed from Tsukuyomi no Makoto's ancient consciousness. This world contained legends of blood spirits, vengeful entities that drained life force from the living. His transformation had inadvertently mimicked a figure from local mythology. Deciding to leverage the psychological advantage, Naruto expanded the blood sphere. Forming it into a massive floating sigil, the Uzumaki spiral intertwined with the distinctive Tomo pattern of Tsukuyomi's traditional representation. "Flee," he commanded, his voice carrying harmonics that triggered primal fear responses. "Tell others that the Avatar walks with the Blood Sage." The title came unbidden to his lips, yet felt oddly appropriate, a new identity for this new world. The remaining soldiers broke formation, retreating in disarray toward their vessel anchored beyond the beach. Naruto allowed them to escape, recognizing the tactical value of spreading fear through enemy ranks. Terror could accomplish what direct force could not, disrupting morale, creating hesitation, sowing doubt in supposedly straightforward missions. As the sounds of retreat faded, he rejoined the others at the camp. Aang stared at him with an expression Naruto couldn't quite interpret, not fear exactly, but a new wariness mingled with fascination. "That was," the young Avatar began, struggling to articulate his thoughts. "Efficient," Yugito supplied, emerging from the forest with not a hair out of place despite having neutralized multiple opponents. "Terrifying," Katara corrected, her expression troubled as she watched Naruto reabsorb the blood he'd used. "You controlled them through fear. I controlled the battlefield narrative," Naruto countered calmly. "Fear is a weapon like any other. Used precisely, it prevents greater violence." Sokka, dragging an unconscious soldier by the ankles, seemed less philosophically troubled. "They'll report back about the Blood Sage now. That's actually pretty strategic. The Fire Nation will waste resources preparing for a legendary spirit instead of just another bender." Propaganda and psychological warfare, Yugito noted with approval. "Creating an outsized reputation deters future attacks. But it feels dishonest," Aang protested. "Using their spiritual beliefs against them. Would you prefer honest violence?" Naruto asked without judgment. "Each approach has its cost. Fear tactics target the mind. Direct combat targets the body. Which violation concerns you more?" The question silenced further ethical debate as they secured the unconscious soldiers. Cultural differences in combat ethics continued to emerge, the shinobi's pragmatic approach to warfare contrasting sharply with Aang's idealism and Katara's principled aggression. By dawn, they had departed the island, leaving behind bound but unharmed Fire Nation troops who would eventually free themselves and report their encounter with the mysterious Blood Sage, who accompanied the Avatar. "You've changed our strategy without intending to," Katara observed as they flew northward. The Fire Nation will be watching for blood manipulation now, creating new tactical opportunities, Yugito noted. They'll prepare for abilities they don't understand, wasting resources on ineffective countermeasures. Unless they have records of actual bloodbenders, Katara countered darkly. There are scrolls and stories, techniques developed in secret. Which is why I'll vary my approach, Naruto assured her. Predictability leads to vulnerability. As they continued their journey, the landscape below transformed from ocean to the rocky shores of the Earth Kingdom. Massive geological formations, evidence of centuries of earthbending influence on the natural environment, dominated the coastline. Stone bridges spanned impossible gaps, tunnels bored through mountains that should have required years to penetrate, and entire cities carved directly into cliff faces demonstrated the profound integration of bending into this world's development. Your bending shaped more than combat, Naruto observed, genuine admiration in his voice. It fundamentally altered how your civilizations evolved. Quote, as opposed to your world? Sokka asked, curious despite his general skepticism toward the dimensional traveler's stories. Our abilities primarily developed through warfare, Yugito explained. Infrastructure applications came later and remained secondary. Even healing techniques originated as battlefield medicine. That's so sad, Aang commented, his air nomad pacifism once again highlighting the contrast between worlds. Bending began as an extension of our connection to nature. Fighting came much later. The philosophical difference reflected deeper cultural divides. The shinobi world had developed jutsu specifically for combat, with peaceful applications as afterthoughts. This world had begun with harmony before weaponizing their connection to elements. Their conversation paused as Appa descended toward a market town nestled in a coastal valley. After days of travel, supplies needed replenishment, and information about Fire Nation movements had to be gathered. We'll need disguises, Sokka announced, rummaging through their packs. This region isn't under direct Fire Nation control, but they have spies everywhere. The Water Ibe siblings donned Earth Kingdom attire from previous travels. Aang covered his distinctive tattoos with a headband and long sleeves. For Naruto and Yugito, their Water Tribe outerwear served as adequate disguise, marking them as northern traders rather than dimensional anomalies. Remember, we're just passing through, Sokka briefed them as they approached the town gates. No bending, no mention of the Avatar, and definitely no blood magic spirit stuff. The market town bustled with activity, merchants hawking wares, travelers exchanging news, and locals going about daily business with the resigned efficiency of people living under the shadow of distant war. Earth Kingdom soldiers patrolled casually, their presence more symbolic than functional in this relatively peaceful region. As they wandered the market, gathering supplies and eavesdropping on local gossip, Naruto noticed Aang gravitating toward a messenger board covered with notices. The young Avatar studied one particular poster with unusual intensity. Earth Rumble Tournament, he read aloud when the others joined him. The kingdom's greatest earthbenders compete for ultimate glory. A sporting event during wartime? Yugito questioned, the concept foreign to shinobi sensibilities. Their villages never diverted resources to entertainment during conflicts. Life continues despite the war, Katara explained. Especially ally in regions like this that haven't seen direct combat in years. People need distraction from constant fear. Aang's expression brightened with sudden inspiration. This is perfect. I need an earthbending teacher. And the best earthbenders in the region will all be in one place. Sokka examined the poster skeptically. These aren't disciplined soldiers or wise masters, they're glorified entertainers. You need someone who understands earthbending philosophy, not just showmanship. Sometimes the most profound wisdom hides in unexpected places, Naruto interjected, memories of Jiraiya's peculiar teaching methods surfacing. My own master presented himself as a fool to the world while harboring exceptional knowledge. Exactly, Aang agreed enthusiastically, and even if we don't find a teacher, we'll learn about different earthbending styles. Plus, it'll be fun. The simplicity of the last statement, the prioritization of enjoyment alongside tactical considerations, highlighted yet another difference between worlds. Shinobi missions rarely incorporated recreational elements, efficiency always took precedence over pleasure. With the decision made to attend the tournament, they completed their supply gathering and returned to Appa, who waited camouflaged in a wooded area outside town. The tournament location lay a day's flight inland, in a region noted for particularly dense earth suitable for high-level bending competitions. As they made camp that evening, Naruto observed Aang practicing a sequence of fluid movements that seemed to incorporate elements of waterbending while retaining distinctive air nomad characteristics. You blend techniques from different elements, he noted with interest, creating something new from established traditions. Aang paused, smiling. That's the Avatar's purpose, to master all four elements and understand how they connect. Each isn't completely separate, they influence each other. Like our chakra natures, Naruto mused. In our world, most shinobi have an affinity for one elemental nature, but the most skilled can combine them to create new techniques. Really? Aang's eyes widened with interest. Can you show me? Naruto considered the request. Most of his techniques had been altered by his transformation, becoming blood-based rather than pure chakra manipulation. Still, certain fundamentals remained. I originally had wind affinity, he explained. Forming a basic hand seal. A small vortex materialized above his palm, pure wind chakra without blood enhancement. But I could also do this. The vortex expanded, incorporating earth elements from the ground beneath them to create a swirling dust devil that danced across their campsite before dissipating harmlessly. That's amazing, Aang exclaimed. It's like airbending and earthbending together. But without actually moving the elements separately first. Chakra manipulation differs from bending, Yugito explained, joining the impromptu lesson. You move existing elements. We convert our internal energy into elemental form. The distinction fascinated Aang, who immediately attempted to replicate the effect using his bending techniques. His efforts produced interesting hybrid movements but couldn't quite achieve the seamless elemental fusion that chakra naturally created. Your bending seems more connected to the world around you, Naruto observed. Our jutsu are more internalized, extensions of self rather than connections to environment. This fundamental difference explained much about the respective combat philosophies. Benders worked with their surroundings, adapting to available elements. Shinobi carried their weapons within, less dependent on external factors but perhaps less attuned to natural balance. As night deepened, Naruto took first watch, perching in a tree overlooking their campsite. His enhanced vision penetrated the darkness, tracking the movement of nocturnal creatures and monitoring distant travelers on nearby roads. Katara joined him sometime past midnight, climbing the tree with surprising agility for someone without formal shinobi training. Your senses are enhanced, she noted, settling on an adjacent branch. You detected those Fire Nation soldiers long before anyone else could have. Naruto nodded. Vampire aspects of my transformation. Predator adaptations. Enhanced vision, smell, hearing. All tied to blood perception. It's not just your abilities that are different, Katara observed after a moment. Your entire approach to combat. You fight like you've lived through countless battles. I have, Naruto replied simply. And through my connection with Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, I carry memories of conflicts spanning millennia. Katara absorbed this information with thoughtful silence. Does it change who you are? Having another being's memories inside you? The question struck deeper than she likely intended. Naruto had wondered the same thing since his transformation, how much remained of the hyperactive, impulsive boy from Konoha, and how much had been subsumed by ancient consciousness. I remain myself, he answered eventually. But with expanded perspective. Kurama's rage, and Tsukuyomi's ancient wisdom inform my decisions without overriding my core identity. He turned those disconcerting eyes toward her. Does that reassure you or concern you more? Both, she admitted honestly. I see glimpses of someone who could be a friend, then moments later witness abilities that terrify me. The blood manipulation. Not just that, Katara clarified. The calculation. You assess situations with cold efficiency. Even Aang's idealism doesn't seem to affect your tactical thinking. A shinobi sees the world through the lens of mission parameters, Naruto explained. Objectives. Acceptable losses. Resource allocation. We're trained from childhood to compartmentalize emotions during operations. That sounds lonely, Katara said softly. The simple observation caught Naruto off guard. Not judgment or philosophical disagreement, but recognition of the personal cost of his world's systems. Few in the shinobi world ever acknowledged that particular truth so directly. It can be, he acknowledged, surprising himself with the admission. Though some find connection within the constraints. Like you and Yugito, Naruto smiled slightly. Circumstances have created an alliance of necessity. Jinchuriki often understand each other better than others can understand us. Jinchuriki. That's what you call people who contain spirits. Literally. Power of human sacrifice, Naruto translated. A term that acknowledges what we give up to contain these entities. Katara's expression reflected new understanding. You were sacrificed for your village's protection. No wonder you view combat pragmatically. The conversation might have continued, but Naruto suddenly stiffened, attention shifting toward the forest's edge. Someone approaches. Katara immediately tensed. Fire Nation. No. Single traveler. Small physical signature but unusual earth energy. Extremely powerful. The description proved accurate as a diminutive figure emerged from the tree line, a girl no older than 12. Barefoot despite the rocky terrain, moving with absolute confidence despite the darkness. Most strikingly, her pale eyes stared forward without focusing on anything, suggesting, "She's blind," Katara whispered in surprise. Yet the girl navigated directly toward their campsite without hesitation, stopping precisely at its perimeter. She tilted her head, as I'll listening to the earth beneath her feet. "I know you're up there," she called toward their tree with uncanny accuracy. "You and Water Girl, might as well come down and explain why you're headed to my tournament." "Your tournament?" Katara questioned as they descended. The girl grinned, an expression of supreme confidence that seemed incongruous on her young face. "Earth Rumble champion 3 years running. The blind bandit." She stamped one foot, and the ground beneath them trembled slightly in what seemed more greeting than threat. "And you're traveling with the Avatar." Naruto asked the diminutive earthbender with new respect. Her sensory abilities rivaled those of specialized tracking ninja, allowing her to identify Aang's unique energy signature from considerable distance. "We're seeking an earthbending teacher for the Avatar," Naruto confirmed, seeing no point in denying what she already knew. The self-proclaimed blind bandit crossed her arms. "Lots of earthbenders would line up for that honor. What makes you think I'd be interested?" "We don't," Katara replied honestly. "We didn't even know you existed until 30 seconds ago." This earned a bark of laughter from the girl. "Fair enough. I've been tracking your bison since you entered my territory." "Not exactly subtle transportation." "Your territory?" Naruto questioned, intrigued by her proprietorial attitude toward the region. "Figure of speech," she clarified, though something in her tone suggested more complex circumstances. "So, you're headed to Earth Rumble to scout talent." Bold strategy, but most of those showboats couldn't teach proper earthbending to save their lives. "And you could?" Katara asked, a challenging note entering her voice. The girl's unseeing eyes somehow managed to convey supreme confidence. "I learned from badger moles, the original earthbenders. Not some academy-trained soldier who follows rules and forms." Her declaration carried genuine pride without crossing into empty boasting. Naruto sensed truth in her words. This child possessed extraordinary connection to her element, developed through unconventional means. "What should we call you?" he asked. "Beyond your arena name, Toph Beifong," she replied after slight hesitation. "Though my parents would die of shock if they knew I was out here talking to strangers." The family name triggered recognition for Katara. Beifong, the Earth Kingdom nobility. Toph grimaced. "Unfortunately, as far as they're concerned, I'm a helpless blind girl who needs constant protection. They have no idea about." She stomped again, sending a perfect column of earth shooting upward before reshaping it into an intricate statue of herself striking a victorious pose. The demonstration displayed control far beyond basic earthbending. Naruto noted the precision, the minimal energy expenditure, and most impressively, the complete absence of traditional forms or stances. Toph's earthbending emerged directly from her connection to the element, unfiltered through formal training structures. "Impressive," he acknowledged. "You've developed techniques that compensate for your blindness." "Compensate?" Toph scoffed. "I don't compensate for anything. I see with earthbending better than most people see with eyes. Every vibration, every step, every heartbeat tells me a story." She turned toward Naruto with unsettling accuracy. "Like how your heart beats differently than anyone I've ever met. Stronger, weirder rhythm. And your blood, it moves strangely." Her perceptiveness startled even Naruto. You can sense blood through earth connection. Liquids create different vibrations than solids, Toph explained with a casual shrug. Yours moves like it has a mind of its own. Never felt anything like it. She grinned suddenly. It's pretty cool, whatever freaky thing you've got going on. Her straightforward acceptance contrasted sharply with Katara's ongoing ethical concerns about his abilities. Where the waterbender saw moral complexity, Toph perceived only interesting uniqueness. So, the young earthbender continued, you want to watch me dominate some second-rate earthbenders tomorrow, then see. Convince me to teach Twinkletoes over there. She jerked a thumb toward the sleeping Aang with perfect spatial awareness. If you're as good as you claim, Katara replied, meeting confidence with challenge. Toph's grin widened. Oh, I'm better. The question is whether the Avatar can handle my teaching style. I don't coddle students. He's more capable than he appears, Naruto observed, having witnessed Aang's considerable skills despite his pacifistic restraint. We'll see. Toph turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. There are Fire Nation spies at every Earth Rumble. They track powerful benders for recruitment or elimination. If you're trying to keep a low profile, you might want to reconsider attending. We've handled Fire Nation soldiers before, Katara assured her. Not like these, Toph warned. Unusual seriousness entering her voice. Special forces. Firebenders augmented with weird herbs and training. Rumor says they can bend lightning and generate fire that burns blue instead of red. Naruto exchanged glances with Katara, both recognizing the description of elite forces unlike those they'd previously encountered. Thank you for the warning, Naruto said. We'll be prepared. Toph nodded. See you tomorrow then. Try not to be too obvious about being with the Avatar. The blind bandit has a reputation to maintain. With that, she stomped one foot and disappeared into the earth itself, bending a tunnel that closed seamlessly behind her. Well, Katara said after a moment, I think we may have found Aang's earthbending teacher. If she agrees, Naruto cautioned. Her independence seems fundamental to her identity. Taking on a student, particularly one with Aang's gentle nature, would require significant adjustment. You like her, Katara realized, noting the respect in Naruto's tone. She knows exactly who she is, Naruto replied. Clarity of identity creates formidable strength. They returned to their respective watch positions, contemplating the unexpected encounter. Toph Bifong represented yet another facet of this world's unique approach to power, ability developed through direct communion with elemental forces rather than formalized human instruction. By morning, when Naruto related the nocturnal meeting to the others, reactions varied predictably. Aang expressed enthusiastic excitement at meeting an earthbender who learned directly from badger moles. Sokka voiced strategic concerns about attending an event with confirmed Fire Nation presence. Yugito remained pragmatic, suggesting surveillance tactics to minimize exposure, while maximizing information gathering. If these elite firebenders are present, she noted, observing their techniques could prove valuable for future encounters. And if Toph is as skilled as she claims, Aang added, she could be the perfect teacher. The Earth Rumble arena proved less difficult to locate than anticipated. Constructed within a massive natural cavern, the venue had been enhanced with earthbending to create tiered seating surrounding a central stone platform. Luminescent crystals provided surprisingly effective lighting, eliminating the need for fire-based illumination in the subterranean space. Following Toph's warning, they maintained careful separation, Aang with Sokka, Katara with Yugito, and Naruto alone, all seated in different sections. Their enhanced sensor abilities allowed Naruto and Yugito to monitor for threats while maintaining communication distance. The tournament itself revealed much about earthbending's cultural position within the Earth Kingdom. Unlike the Fire Nation's strictly regimented bending forms or the fluid adaptability of waterbending, earthbending manifested through remarkable stylistic diversity. Some competitors favored overwhelming force, others precision control, some incorporated acrobatics, others remained firmly rooted in traditional stances. The variety exceeds anything in standardized shinobi training, Yugito O.B. served when they regrouped during an intermission. Our villages would never permit such individualized technique development. Because standardization ensures predictable performance metrics, Naruto noted. The shinobi perspective ingrained despite his personal evolution beyond it. Or because creativity threatens hierarchical control systems, Yugito countered with surprising philosophical sharpness. Before the conversation could develop further, the announcer's voice boomed through the cavern. And now, our three-time champion, the undefeated master of stone, the one, the only. Blind Bandit. Toph emerged to thunderous applause, her diminutive form nearly lost in the massive arena until she took command of the space through sheer presence. Her competitive persona differed marked. From the straightforward girl they'd met in the forest, more theatrical, playing to the crowd's expectations of a championship performer. Her opponent, a massive man introduced as the Boulder, towered over her. Muscles glistening with oil, voice carrying to the furthest seats as he referred to himself in the third person. The Boulder feels conflicted about fighting a young blind girl, he announced with theatrical gravity. Toph's response cut through his posturing with devastating simplicity. Sounds to me like you're scared, Boulder. The battle that followed demonstrated why Toph remained undefeated. Rather than matching her opponent's power directly, she exploited his movements with ruthless efficiency, waiting for commitment to a stance, then altering the ground beneath him to transform strength into vulnerability. Her earthbending displayed none of the elaborate movements other competitors utilized, emerging instead through minuscule adjustments of her feet and subtle hand gestures. She's reading his intentions through vibrations, Naruto realized, his enhanced perception catching details others might miss. By the time he executes a technique, she's already countering it. The match ended in seconds. The Boulder launched into an earthbending form, Toph shifted slightly, and the arena floor reconfigured itself to launch her opponent entirely out of the ring. Now that, Sokka whispered reverently. As earthbending, 5 more challengers fell with similar efficiency, each demonstrating different aspects of Toph's comprehensive mastery. She didn't simply overpower her opponents. She systematically dismantled their techniques by exploiting fundamental weaknesses in their approaches. After her final victory, as the crowd roared approval, Naruto detected movement. In the upper reaches of the cavern, figures moving with disciplined stealth through maintenance tunnels. Yugito, he murmured, knowing her enhanced hearing would catch his voice despite the crowd noise. Southeast Quadrant, Upper Tier. Military precision movement patterns. Her subtle nod confirmed she'd both heard and identified the potential threat. Without drawing attention, she repositioned herself for better observation. Casual movements belying the predatory focus beneath. The tournament concluded with Toph's championship confirmation and a traditional challenge segment where Aang members could volunteer to face the champion. Aang, displaying either tremendous courage or complete lack of self-preservation instinct, immediately volunteered. I wonder what your earthbending teacher would think of this, he called as he entered the arena, deliberately drawing Toph's attention to his potential as a student rather than merely another opponent. The strategy backfired spectacularly. Toph's expression hardened, pride evidently wounded by what she perceived as an attempt to manipulate her through public pressure. I don't need students, she replied coldly, and you don't want me as a teacher. What followed was less a match than a lesson in humility. Despite Aang's considerable airbending skills, Toph systematically countered his every move, anticipating directional hinges and aerial maneuvers with uncanny accuracy. You're light on your feet, she commented midway through dismantling his defenses, but that won't help against someone who doesn't need to see you to know exactly where you are. The match ended with Aang unceremoniously ejected from the arena, landing in a disheveled heap beside his friends. Rather than discouragement, however, his expression showed renewed determination. She's perfect, he declared, brushing dust from his clothes. That's exactly the kind of earthbending mastery I need to learn. Before they could formulate a recruitment strategy, Yugito's voice cut through their discussion. Incoming. Southwest Tunnel. Elite firebenders, moving with tactical formation. As if on cue, blue flames erupted from the indicated tunnel entrance, causing immediate panic among spectators. Through the chaos emerged 3 figures, 2 women flanking a central male, all wearing modified Fire Nation uniforms that emphasized mobility over traditional military appearance. The princess was right, the leader announced, his voice carrying despite the crowd's panicked exodus. The blind bandit's techniques would indeed prove valuable to the Fire Nation. Toph's response embodied defiant confidence. Not interested in your recruitment pitch. Try someone who cares about your stupid war. Recruitment. The man laughed coldly. No, child. The Fire Nation doesn't recruit Earth Kingdom talents. We study them, then eliminate the source. Blue flames erupted from his companion's hands, hotter and more focused than standard firebending. Toph responded instantly, raising stone barriers that would have stopped normal fire but merely slowed this enhanced version. Without hesitation, Team Avatar moved to support the young Earthbender. Katara pulled water from concealed containers, Sokka readied his boomerang, and Aang generated defensive air currents that dispersed approaching flames. The Fire Nation squad leader's eyes widened slightly at the unexpected resistance. The Avatar, he confirmed, clearly recognizing Aang's distinctive bending style. Princess Azula will be pleased with today's outcome. The name meant nothing to Naruto. But the reaction it produced in Team Avatar, particularly Katara's expression of controlled hatred, suggested significant history. Naruto assessed the tactical situation with cold precision. The civilian evacuation created operational flexibility, eliminating collateral damage concerns. The underground environment limited Yugito's flame techniques while enhancing Toph's earthbending advantage. The specialized firebenders represented unknown capability parameters requiring careful engagement protocols. Yugito, he called across the arena, containment perimeter. Understanding immediately, the two tails Jinchuriki circled to flank the Fire Nation squad, blue flames manifesting along her fingertips. Not attacking directly, but establishing positional control to prevent escape or reinforcement. "What are you?" one of the female firebenders questioned, clearly recognizing that Yugito's blue flames differed fundamentally from their own. Rather than answering, Yugito smiled, allowing Matabi's influence to manifest visibly, slitted pupils expanding, canines lengthening slightly. The psychological impact registered immediately in the firebender's elevated heart rate and minuscule step backward. Meanwhile, Naruto approached the squad leader directly, moving with the preternatural stillness that had unsettled even Yugito upon first witnessing it. "You mentioned a princess," he stated conversationally, as though discussing weather rather than combat intelligence. "Commanding specialized forces rather than standard military units. Interesting command structure." The Eater maintained professional composure despite Naruto's deliberately unsettling approach. "Princess Azula personally selected this unit for our particular talents. A shame you won't live long enough to appreciate the honor of facing us." Without warning or visible preparation, he executed a complex form that generated not flames but crackling electrical energy, lightning bending, a technique Naruto had not previously witnessed in this world. The attack launched with lethal intensity directly toward Naruto's chest. In the shinobi world, such an attack might be countered with substitution jutsu or elemental defense. Here, lacking those specific techniques, Naruto responded instinctively with his blood manipulation. Crimson liquid erupted from his skin, forming a shield that the lightning struck with catastrophic force. Rather than stopping the attack, however, the blood conducted it, channeling the energy through carefully directed pathways around Naruto's vital organs before grounding. It threw his feet into the stone floor. The arena fell momentarily silent as both allies and enemies processed what they'd witnessed. Blood manipulation at this level, responding instantaneously to lethal threat, reconfiguring in real time to channel electrical energy, transcended anything previously seen in this world. "Blood Sage," the firebender whispered, recognition and something approaching religious fear entering his voice. The legends were true. Naruto hadn't intended to reveal his full capabilities so publicly, but circumstances had forced his hand. Now, seeing the impact of the demonstration, he made a tactical decision to leverage the psychological advantage. "The Avatar walks with the Blood Sage," he confirmed, deliberately echoing the phrase he'd used during the previous Fire Nation encounter. "Consider the implications before continuing this engagement." The squad leader glanced toward his companions, professional discipline warring with superstitious dread. The Fire Nation, Naruto had learned, maintained complex spiritual beliefs alongside its militaristic expansionism. Certain ancient powers were feared even by those who wielded flame. "This isn't over," the leader finally stated, signaling a tactical retreat. "Princess Azula will hear of this development." As they withdrew through the tunnel from which they'd emerged, Naruto allowed them to escape, another calculated decision. The knowledge of his abilities would spread through Fire Nation intelligence networks, creating uncertainty and hesitation in future encounter planning. When the immediate threat had passed, Toph approached Naruto with none of the fear or ethical concern Katara had displayed upon witnessing his blood manipulation. That, she declared emphatically, was the coolest thing I've ever not seen. Despite her blindness, her earth sense had clearly provided detailed perception of the encounter. Your blood moves like you're earthbending with it, but faster and more alive. It's a technique from my world. Naruto explained simply. Your world. Toph's eyebrows rose above unseeing eyes. Okay, now you've got to explain that. After you explain why you're all traveling with the Avatar and why I should consider teaching him when he clearly needs to work on basic route positioning first. Her directness cut through potential diplomatic complications. Where others might require careful persuasion, Toph responded best to straightforward communication. As they exited the arena through earth-bent tunnels that bypassed potential Fire Nation surveillance, Naruto provided a condensed explanation of their dimensional origins and Aang's need for earthbending instruction. Toph listened with surprising patience, interrupting only occasionally for clarification. So why? We're basically super-powered warriors from another dimension who got yanked here by some cosmic weirdness that's following Twinkletoes around, she summarized once he'd finished. And Blondie there and manipulate blood because he's part vampire god or something. That's remarkably accurate, Yugito acknowledged, impressed by the young earthbender's ability to distill complex information. And you want me to join this circus? Toph continued. Teach Aang earthbending while running from the Fire Nation and dealing with whatever other dimension-hopping monsters might show up. That's about right, Aang confirmed cheerfully. So will you do it? Toph's unseeing eyes somehow managed to convey thoughtful consideration. My parents would completely lose their minds. They think I'm a helpless blind girl who needs constant protection. A slow, mischievous grin spread across her face. Count me in. Just like that, Katara questioned, surprised by the sudden decision. Just like that, Toph confirmed. I've been looking for an excuse to get out from under my parents' overprotective thumbs for years. Besides, she added, stomping one foot to create a perfect Earth replica of Naruto's blood shield. I want to learn how he does that. Blood and Earth are fundamentally different, Naruto cautioned. Toph shrugged. Everything's connected. Earth contains minerals. Blood contains minerals. I figure there's something to learn from everyone, even dimension-hopping vampire ninjas. Her straightforward acceptance of extraordinary circumstances proved refreshingly direct after complex philosophical and ethical discussions that had characterized previous interactions. Where others questioned the implications of Naruto's abilities, Toph simply appreciated their effectiveness and sought practical applications for her own techniques. As they made camp that evening, a new dynamic emerged within the expanded group. Toph's unfiltered communication style contrasted sharply with Aang's diplomatic tact and Katara's principled idealism. Sokka found an unexpected ally in Yugito's pragmatism, while Naruto observed the interactions with the quiet assessment that had become his transformed nature. You're not what I expected, Toph commented, having maneuvered to sit beside him while others prepared the evening meal. Your heartbeat is super weird, steady like you're meditating even during that fight. And your blood, it moves even when you're not actively controlling it. Like it's partly alive on its own. Perceptive, Naruto acknowledged. The merger with Tsukuyomi. I know Makoto altered my physiology at fundamental levels. My blood carries aspects of divine consciousness. Rather than recoiling from this extraordinary statement, Toph seemed fascinated. So you've got three beings in one body. You, the fox thing, and this blood god. Doesn't it get crowded in there? The question, asked with genuine curiosity rather than judgment or fear, surprised a brief laugh from Naruto. Sometimes, though we've reached accommodation over time, and the blood manipulation, that comes from the god part. Primarily, yes, though my own chakra and Kurama's influence shape how it manifests. Toph nodded as though this explanation of divine merger made perfect sense. I get it. It's like how my earthbending comes partly from what the Badger Moles taught me, partly from what I figured out myself. And partly from what I picked up watching Earth Rumble competitors. Different influences creating something unique. The comparison, while simplistic, demonstrated surprising insight for someone so young. Toph instinctively understood the concept of synthesizing disparate influences into cohesive personal technique, a philosophical understanding many adult benders never achieved. Exactly, Naruto confirmed, though with considerably more cosmic implications. Toph grinned. Cosmic, schmosmic. Power is power. It's what you do with it that matters. She tilted her head toward where Katara worked preparing food. Water Girl still doesn't trust your blood stuff, does she? She has cultural and personal reasons for wariness, Naruto explained diplomatically. In this world, blood manipulation has negative associations. Because some waterbenders used it to control people, Toph nodded. She mentioned that earlier. But you don't do that, right? I could, Naruto answered honestly. The capability exists, but I choose different applications. See, that's what matters, Toph stated with absolute conviction. What you choose to do, not what you could do. Everyone with power could do terrible things. I could bury this whole camp in rock if I wanted. Aang could suffocate everyone by pulling away the air. Doesn't mean we would. The straightforward ethical assessment cut through layers of philosophical complexity Katara had raised regarding blood manipulation. Toph's perspective focused on active choice rather than inherent moral quality of specif. I see abilities, a surprisingly sophisticated position from one so young. Your directness is refreshing, Naruto observed. Benefits of being raised by badger moles, Toph replied with a smirk. They don't do social niceties either. As darkness fell and the group settled around the campfire, conversation turned to practical matters, travel plans, training schedules for Aang, and strategies for Mana. Jing Toph's inevitable parental complications. Throughout the discussion, Naruto noticed the young earthbender's growing comfort with the group, particularly her rapid development of personalized names for everyone. Aang became Twinkletoes, Sokka, Boomerang, Katara, Sugar Queen, Yugito, Cat Lady, and Naruto himself, Blood Boy. The casual renaming represented Toph's method of claiming connection, establishing her place within the group through linguistic territoriality. Unlike formal shinobi team designations, these names carried affectionate recognition of individual traits rather than functional roles. As the others gradually retired for the night, Naruto again took first watch, his vampire aspects requiring minimal sleep compared to his companions. Yugito joined him briefly, Ire enhanced senses allowing silent communication beyond human hearing range. The Earthbender child will significantly alter group dynamics, she observed quietly. Naruto nodded. Her directness eats both opportunities and complications. She lacks Aang's diplomatic instincts and Katara's ethical restraint. You find her perspective valuable, Yugito noted perceptively. She sees fundamentals clearly. No philosophical obscuration or cultural baggage. Because of her blindness. Because of her connection to Earth, Naruto corrected. Her element values substance over appearance, stability over adaptation. Her personality reflects those traits. Yugito considered this assessment. The others follow elemental patterns as well. The Avatar's airbender upbringing emphasizes avoidance and redirection. Katara's waterbender techniques involve turning opposition into advantage. The non-bender compensates with technological solutions and strategic thinking. While we operate outside their elemental framework entirely, Naruto concluded, creating both advantages and misunderstandings. Their conversation ended as both detected approaching figures, multiple signatures moving with military precision through the forest surrounding their camp. Unlike the Fire Nation forces they'd encountered previously, these moved with advanced stealth techniques that nearly masked their presence even from enhanced senses. Earth Kingdom, Yugito identified, noting the distinctive weight distribution in their movements. Special forces, based on precision formation. Naruto agreed with her assessment. Not hostile approach vectors. Reconnaissance formation. Before either could alert the others, Toph's voice emerged from her tent. I know you're out there. Might as well stop sneaking around on my element. The Earth Kingdom soldiers froze momentarily, their surprise at being detected evident in subtle shifts of weight and breathing patterns. After brief hesitation, their leader emerged from concealment, a middle-aged man wearing the distinctive uniform of Earth Kingdom Intelligence Services rather than standard military. Toph Bifong, he called formally. Your parents are extremely concerned about your absence. Quote, Toph emerged from her tent with an exaggerated sigh of frustration. Already, that's got to be some kind of record. Usually takes them at least 2 days to mobilize the troops. Your safety is paramount to your father, the agent replied smoothly. particularly given recent Fire Nation interest in your earthbending abilities. I can handle a few firebenders, Toph dismissed casually. According to our intelligence, you were confronted by Princess Azula's Special Operations Unit, elite firebenders with advanced combat training. Without the Avatar's intervention, the outcome might have been significantly different. The information confirmed Naruto's suspicion that Earth Kingdom intelligence maintained surveillance on the Earth Rumble tournaments, likely monitoring for exceptional talents they could recruit for their war effort. I'm not going back, Toph stated flatly. I've agreed to teach the Avatar earthbending. Kind of important for He-ho, saving the world thing you guys claim to care about. The agent's expression remained professionally neutral. Your father has authorized me to employ whatever means necessary to ensure your safe return. The threat, though diplomatically phrased, was unmistakable. Naruto and Yugito moved simultaneously to flanking positions, their shinobi training automatically engaging in response to potential conflict. Aang and Katara emerged from their tents, drawn by the confrontation. Please, Aang began, adopting his diplomatic air nomad approach, there's no need for. With respect, Avatar, the agent interrupted. This is a family matter. The Baifeng family has significant political influence in this region. Their daughter's safety transcends even your authority. Toph's expression darkened. So that's how it's going to be. My father's political connections trump the literal fate of the world. Your father loves you, the agent replied, softening slightly. He doesn't understand your abilities or independence. He sees only a blind child in danger. Then maybe he needs his perspective adjusted, Naruto suggested, stepping forward. The Earth Kingdom agents tensed, hands moving to weapons as the Blood Sage entered their operational space. What do you propose? The lead agent asked cautiously, clearly recognizing something dangerous in Naruto's otherworldly presence. A compromise, Naruto offered. Return to the Baifeng estate with us. Allow Toph to demonstrate her abilities to her parents directly, with the Avatar as witness to her competence. If they still refuse to acknowledge her capabilities, we discuss alternatives. The suggestion represented diplomatic finesse that surprised even Yugito. Naruto's transformed state had enhanced not only his combat abilities but his strategic thinking, identifying solutions that addressed all parties' core concerns rather than forcing direct confrontation. Toph considered the proposal, her initial rejection soft, ending as she recognized the underlying strategy. Fine, she agreed eventually. One demonstration for my parents. But when they still don't get it, because they won't, we leave with or without their blessing. The Earth Kingdom agent seemed relieved at the negotiated solution. The Baifeng estate is less than a day's travel from here. We can escort you at first light. As the agents withdrew to their own camp nearby, maintaining respectful surveillance distance, Team Avatar gathered to discuss this unexpected complication. Rich parents, Sokka observed with a sigh. Always complicating simple kidnappings. It wasn't a kidnapping, Katara corrected sharply. Toph chose to come with us. Try explaining that to overprotective nobility, Yugito noted pragmatically. In their perspective, their vulnerable blind daughter was lured away by strangers. Toph snorted. Vulnerable, right. I've been sneaking out and fighting in Earth Rumble tournaments for 3 years without them having a clue. Some vulnerability. Which raises the question, Naruto interjected, of how they discovered your absence so quickly this time. The question silenced the group momentarily as implications registered. Previously, Toph had maintained her double life successfully through careful timing and deception. This time, Earth Kingdom intelligence had mobilized with unusual speed to recover her. The Fire Nation, Katara realized. Their appearance at the tournament changed things. Someone reported their interest in Toph specifically. Making me a political priority rather than just a missing rich kid, Toph concluded. Great. Now I'm a national security concern. Actually, Sokka mused, strategic mind engaging, this could work to our advantage. If the Earth Kingdom officially recognizes your importance to the war effort, quote, they might sanction your training Aang as a matter of national priority, Yugito completed the thought. Giving your parents a face-saving way to accept your departure, Naruto added. Toph grinned, the plan clearly appealing to her. Political maneuvering. Sneaky. I like it. As the group dispersed to prepare for the journey to the Baifeng estate, Naruto remained thoughtful. Considering broader implications, The dimensional travelers had now become entangled in local politics beyond simple Fire Nation conflict. Their presence altered calculations for Earth Kingdom intelligence, Fire Nation special operations, and even family dynamics within influential noble houses. The ripples spread. Tsukuyomi no Makoto's voice murmured in his consciousness. As they must when worlds intersect. Your presence cannot help but transform this reality, even as it transforms you. The ancient deity's observation resonated with uncomfortable truth. They had entered this world as observers, seeking only to understand the dimensional anomaly. Now, barely a week later, they had aligned with the Avatar, confronted elite Fire Nation operatives, influenced Earth Kingdom intelligence operations, and potentially altered the political landscape of an entire region. Interdimensional contamination was no longer theoretical concern but established reality. Whatever cosmic purpose had drawn them to this world, the consequences of their presence would continue to echo long after their departure, if departure remained possible at all. Naruto gazed toward T. Horizon where his enhanced senses could still detect the subtle dimensional distortion following the Avatar's path. The rift appeared to be stabilizing rather than closing, a concerning development, suggesting permanent thinning of the barriers between worlds. The convergence progresses. Tsukuyomi confirmed. Others will follow. Great. Kurama growled within their shared mindscape. More complications in an already troublesome situation. Naruto silently agreed with the fox's assessment. Tomorrow would bring political confrontation at the Baifeng estate. Beyond that, the continuing journey toward mastering the elements. And throughout, the dimensional anomaly would continue drawing entities from across realities into this already war-torn world. Blood sage indeed. That might prove prophetic as boundaries between worlds dissolved like cellular walls in a transfusion that none of them had anticipated or desired. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Crimson Moon. Dawn painted the Baifeng estate in shades of emerald and gold, sunlight filtering through ancient trees that surrounded the walled compound. By Earth Kingdom standards, the property represented extraordinary wealth, sprawling gardens, multiple pavilions, and a main house that could comfortably shelter 50 people. Stone pathways wound through meticulously maintained landscapes, each pebble placed with deliberate precision. Naruto observed the approach with growing awareness of Toph's unusual upbringing. This wasn't merely wealth, it was calculated isolation, a gilded cage designed to separate the Earthbender from the war-torn world beyond its walls. Home sweet prison, Toph muttered as they approached the ornate main gate. Try not to look too impressed. Dad feeds on people's admiration. The Earth Kingdom agents had maintained respectful distance throughout their journey, allowing Team Avatar the illusion of voluntary compliance while ensuring the young heiress's return. Now, at the estate entrance, they moved forward to announce the party's arrival with formal protocol that spoke of the Baifeng's significant social standing. Massive stone doors swung inward without visible mechanism, evidence of sophisticated earthbending integrated into the estate's design. Beyond stood a reception committee, household staff arranged in precise formation, security personnel attempting to appear decorative rather than functional, and at the center, a middle-aged couple whose rigid postures conveyed authority accustomed to absolute compliance. Your daughter has been safely recovered, Lord Baifeng. The lead agent reported with deferential bow. Lao Baifeng, a man whose expensive robes and carefully maintained appearance spoke of power expressed through meticulous control, stepped forward with an expression balanced between relief and stern disapproval. Toph, he addressed his daughter without acknowledging the others, your behavior has caused your mother tremendous distress. You will apologize immediately and return to your quarters. The command carried absolute expectation of obedience, the voice of someone unaccustomed to contradiction. Toph's response, however, demonstrated equally unyielding determination. No, father, she replied, the formal address carrying subtle rebellion. I've come to show you something important, then I'll be leaving again, with your blessing or without it. Shock rippled through the assembled staff at this unprecedented defiance. Poppy Baifeng, Toph's mother, pressed manicured fingers to her lips in visible distress. This is unacceptable, Lao declared, gaze shifting accusingly toward Team Avatar. Who are these people who have filled my daughter's head with such disrespect? Guards, Security personnel stepped forward, hands moving toward weapons, only to freeze as Toph stomped one foot decisively. The stone beneath them rippled, shifting just enough to unbalance without causing injury, a precision demonstration of Earth B. Ending mastery that immediately commanded attention. "You will listen," Toph stated, her 12-year-old voice carrying surprising authority. "For once in my life, Father, you will actually see me." The display created momentary opportunity for diplomatic intervention. Aang stepped forward, bowing with formal air nomad respect. "Lord and Lady Baifeng," he began, "I am Avatar Aang. Your daughter has agreed to become my earthbending teacher, a tremendous honor and responsibility crucial to restoring balance to our world." The revelation of the Avatar's identity transformed the confrontation's dynamics instantly. Despite his distress, Lao Baifeng recognized the political implications of having his family directly associated with the world's most significant spiritual authority. "Avatar," he acknowledged with belated courtesy. "This unexpected development requires private discussion. Please, you and your companions are welcome within our home while we address this family matter." He invitation represented neither acceptance nor rejection but diplomatic stalling, buying time to assess implications and formulate response. As they were escorted through the estate's impressive grounds toward a guest pavilion, Naruto noticed surveillance subtleties most would overlook: strategic positioning of guards, observation points disguised as decorative features, and the distinctive energy signatures of earthbenders embedded throughout the security detail. "Your father maintains sophisticated protection protocols," he noted quietly to Toph. The young earthbender snorted. "Paranoid is what he is. Ever since the Fire Nation started expanding their territory, Dad's been convinced they're specifically targeting his business interests." "Are they?" Yugito inquired, her diplomatic express. Arians recognizing the strategic value of controlling Earth Kingdom commercial enterprises. "Probably," Toph admitted with surprising pragmatism. "Dad's shipping operations are pretty important for moving supplies throughout the Earth Kingdom. But his solution is to hide behind walls and guards instead of doing anything useful about it." The frustration in her voice revealed deeper tensions underlying her rebellion. Not merely a child seeking independence, Toph fundamentally disagreed with her family's response to broader conflict: isolationism versus engagement, protection versus contribution. The guest pavilion provided luxury that bordered on excessive: silk cushions, carved jade decorations, and refreshments served by attendants who materialized silently to anticipate every possible need. Sokka immediately took advantage, sampling delicacies with appreciative enthusiasm, while Katara observed their surroundings with the wariness of someone unaccustomed to such privilege. "So what's the plan?" Aang asked, addressing Toph directly. "How do we convince your parents to let you come with us?" "We don't," Toph replied flatly. "Nothing we say will change their minds. They need to see what I can do, really see it. Not just watch some controlled demonstration." "You have something specific in mind," Naruto observed, noting the determined set of her jaw. Toph's unseeing eyes somehow conveyed mischievous calculation. "The Earth Rumble champion doesn't just disappear between tournaments. I've been handling local security problems for years without anyone connecting it to the blind Baifeng heiress." "You've been vigilante earthbending," Katara realized, surprise and newfound respect coloring her tone. "Someone has to handle the bandits and troublemakers. The official guards are too bureaucratic to deal with." Toph shrugged. "There's a group that's been raiding villages about 15 miles from here. Local authorities are useless against them because their leader has connections in Ba Sing Se. And you think confronting dangerous criminals will convince your parents you're capable of independence?" Katara questioned skeptically. "No," Toph admitted, "but it will create enough chaos and confusion for us to slip away while demonstrating exactly what I can do. Two bird snakes, one stone." The plan's direct pragmatism reflected Toph's earthbender mentality: confronting obstacles head-on rather than navigating around them. Before further discussion could refine the strategy, a servant appeared to summon them to formal audience with Lord Baifeng. The main house. E's reception hall embodied Earth Kingdom architectural philosophy: soaring ceilings supported by massive stone pillars, each carved with historical scenes depicting the region's development. Naruto no. Ted that unlike Fire Nation designs emphasizing imperial dominance or water tribe structures built for community gathering, This space was specifically crafted to make visitors feel small and insignificant before the family's authority. Lao and Poppy Baifeng waited on slightly elevated seating, the height difference subtle enough to maintain the appearance of equality while reinforcing hierarchical superiority. Beside them stood a new figure, a middle-aged Earth Kingdom official whose distinctive uniform and confident posture suggested significant governmental authority. Avatar Aang, Lao began with carefully measured courtesy. May I present Minister Wang of His Majesty's Intelligence Service. The minister has taken personal interest in this situation. The introduction confirmed Naruto's earlier suspicion. Toph's disappearance had escalated beyond family concern into matters of state security. Whether through genuine strategic importance or merely the Baifeng's political connections remained unclear. A pleasure to meet the Avatar, Minister Wang offered with practiced smoothness. Though I must express concern regarding your involvement with the Baifeng heiress. Removing a child of such political significance from her home carries diplomatic implications. The phrasing transformed potential kidnapping accusations into geopolitical concerns, allowing polite conversatio to continue while maintaining underlying threat. Aang, despite his youth, recognized the maneuver and responded with surprising diplomatic skill. Minister, I respect the Baifeng's concern for their daughter. However, as Avatar, I require masters of all elements to fulfill my responsibilities to the world. Toph Baifeng possesses earthbending abilities unlike any I've encountered, skills développées through extraordinary connection with the original earthbenders themselves. An admirable sentiment, Wang acknowledged. However, Miss Baifeng's unique talents make her particularly valuable to Earth Kingdom interests. The Fire Nation has already demonstrated specific interest in her capabilities, which is precisely why she should accompany the Avatar, Yugito interjected smoothly, her diplomatic training evident in her measured tone. No location provides greater security than proximity to the master of all elements, particularly when combined with our own protective capabilities. Naruto noted her careful phrasing, acknowledging security concerns while subtly establishing the dimensional travelers as significant defensive assets. Minister Wang's slight narrowing of eyes confirmed. He'd caught the implication of unknown protective abilities. Your companions are unfamiliar to our intelligence services, Wang observed, addressing Aang while studying Naruto and Yugito with poorly disguised assessment. Their distinctive appearances suggest origins beyond the four nations. They are trusted allies with unique abilities, Aang replied, deliberately vague. The diplomatic dance continued, neither side directly addressing their true concerns, the Baifengs unwilling to explicitly forbid the Avatar anything, yet equally determined to maintain control over their daughter, the government representative recognizing Toph's strategic value while calculating the political implications of either supporting or opposing the Avatar's request. Throughout the exchange, Toph remained uncharacteristically silent, her expression revealing growing impatience with the adults discussing her fate as though she weren't present. Finally, as the conversation circled through another round of polite non-commitments, she stepped forward. Enough, she declared. Father, Minister, I'm not some fragile ornament to be protected or strategic asset to be deployed. I'm an earthbender, probably the best in this entire region, and the Avatar needs my help. Toph, her mother interjected with distressed propriety, this isn't appropriate discussion for. For what, mother? For a blind girl, for a Baifeng, or for someone who's actually experienced the world beyond these walls? The directness silenced the room momentarily. Lao Baifeng's expression hardened, parental authority visibly reasserting itself. You are my daughter and the Baifeng heir, he stated firmly. Your place is here, where we can ensure your safety and proper upbringing. My safety? Toph laughed without humor. Let me show you something about my safety, father. Before anyone could intervene, she stomped one foot decisively. The stone floor responded instantly, reconfiguring itself to create a detailed miniature replica of the Baifeng estate, perfectly scaled, showing not only external structures but internal rooms and hidden passages that should have been known only to the family and trusted security personnel. I can sense every person, every stone, every hidden compartment in this entire compound, she declared. I've been navigating it blindfolded, literally, since I was 6 years old. The demonstration visibly unsettled both her parents and the minister. Security implications alone created significant concern, but the level of mastery displayed transcended their understanding of earthbending limitations. This property has 17 secret exits designed for emergency evacuation, Toph continued relentlessly. Your office, Father, contains 3 hidden compartments where you store sensitive documents. The Eastern Garden conceals an underground shelter with provisions for 3 months. And Minister Wong has a concealed blade in his left boot that he didn't declare to your security staff. The last revelation caused immediate tension, household guards shifting positions slightly as the minister maintained impressive composure despite exposure of his violation of estate protocols. Standard precaution for intelligence operatives, Wong explained smoothly, though the damage to trust had been done. Naruto observed Toph's strategy with growing respect. Rather than focusing on combat capabilities that her parents would find distressing, she demonstrated intimate knowledge of security systems, establishing herself as an asset rather than liability, capable of detecting threats no conventional guard could perceive. Toph, her father began, voice uncertain for the first time, how long have you been able to perceive these details? Years, she replied simply. Earned from badger moles, the original earthbenders. They navigate through Earth's sense, feeling vibrations through the ground. Being blind only made me focus on developing the ability further. The elation created visible cognitive dissonance for the Baifongs, their fundamental perception of their daughter colliding with demonstrated reality. Before they could fully process this paradigm shift, however, disturbance erupted outside the hall. Rapid footsteps approaching, guards calling for proper announcement protocol to be observed. The doors burst open to admit a breathless messenger in Earth Kingdom military uniform. Minister Wong, Lord Baifong, the Jade Vipers have attacked the eastern village of Shungdi. Multiple casualties reported, hostages taken. The name, Jade Vipers, triggered immediate recognition among the Earth Kingdom natives present. Sokka, exhibiting his perpetual curiosity about potential threats, voiced the question for the dimensional travelers, who exactly are the Jade Vipers? Criminal organization, Minister Wong explained tersely. Former Earth Kingdom soldiers who deserted after the Battle of Gangxing. Their leader, Colonel Chang, maintains political protection through blackmail of certain officials. The hesitation before certain officials suggested personal involvement that the minister carefully avoided specifying. Lao Baifong's expression combined outrage and resignation. The third attack this month, he noted bitterly. And yet Ba Sing Se continues to deny resources for proper response. The perfect opportunity, Toph declared, seizing the moment with strategic precision that impressed even Yugito. Let me demonstrate exactly what I can do. We'll handle the Jade Vipers, free the hostages, capture the leaders, end the threat permanently. Absolutely not, her father countered immediately. This is precisely the danger I've protected you from. No, father, this is precisely the danger you've hidden from while others suffer. The Avatar needs an earthbending teacher who faces problems directly. Let me show you that's exactly who I am. The challenge hung in the air, raw determination confronting parental authority with unprecedented directness. Into this charged silence, Naruto stepped forward, addressing Lord Baifong with the calm certainty his transformed nature now projected effortlessly. Your daughter will be protected, he stated simply. I give you my word as the Blood Sage. The title triggered visible recognition from Minister Wong, whose professional composure momentarily faltered. The Blood Sage, entity reported by Fire Nation units after the Earth Rumble incident. That was you. News travels quickly, Naruto observed, neither confirming nor denying but allowing the reputation to serve its purpose. The minister studied him with new intensity, reassessing threat categories and strategic implications. The reports described abilities unknown to any existing bending discipline. Control over blood itself. Minister Yugito interjected smoothly, perhaps we should focus on the immediate crisis rather than classification of our capabilities. The diplomatic redirection worked, forcing attention back to Toph's proposal. After brief but intense negotiation, compromise emerged. Team Avatar would address the Jade Viper threat with Minister Wong accompanying as observer, while Lord Baifong dispatched conventional forces as backup. The arrangement satisfied no one entirely but allowed all parties to maintain dignity while advancing their interests. As they prepared for departure, Katara approached Toph with obvious concern. Are you sure about this? These aren't tournament fighters, they're actual criminals who won't hesitate to kill. Toph's expression conveyed absolute confidence. Sugar Queen, I've been handling threats like this for years. The difference is, now I get to stop pretending I'm just a helpless blind girl while doing it. Their journey to the affected village took less than an hour with Appa's flight capabilities. Naruto used the time to gather intelligence from Minister Wong, whose knowledge of the Jade Vipers proved extensive if politically sanitized. The criminal organization operated with surprising sophistication, utilizing former military training, maintaining intelligence networks throughout the region, and employing Earthbenders with specialized combat experience. Their leader, Colonel Cheng, was once considered for elite Dai recruitment, Wong explained. His earthbending incorporates metal components, iron dust mixed with stone to create projectiles that can penetrate most conventional defenses. The information triggered Naruto's tactical assessment capabilities. Metal-infused earthbending suggests vulnerability to electromagnetic manipulation or extreme heat that would separate mineral components. Wong's expression revealed surprise at this analytical approach. An interesting observation. Our conventional forces typically rely on superior numbers rather than specialized countermeasures. A wasteful approach, Yugito noted with the blunt assessment characteristic of Kumogakure tactical doctrine. Targeted neutralization of specialized capabilities minimizes casualties on both sides. The minister studied both dimensional travelers with increasing interest. You speak of combat with unusual detachment for the Avatar's companions. We come from a different tradition, Naruto replied simply, offering no elaboration. As they approached Shungdi village, smoke rising from multiple buildings provided immediate situation assessment. The Jade Vipers had adopted scorched earth tactics, destroying infrastructure to prevent effective resistance while maintaining control over central structures where hostages were likely held. Standard military approach, Yugito observed. Secure command position, establish perimeter control, eliminate communication options for potential reinforcements. They're us-ing the village hall as their headquarters, Toph announced, her earth sense extending the moment Appa landed beyond the village boundaries. 23 bandits total, including 4 earthbenders. 31 villagers held inside, mostly women and children. The men are being held separately in what feels like the village shrine. The precision of her assessment impressed even Minister Wong, who say skepticism about the young earthbenders' capabilities had remained evident throughout their journey. Naruto, however, detected additional complexities Toph's earth sense hadn't identified. Blood patterns suggest injuries among the hostages, he noted, his enhanced senses perceiving vital rhythms even at this distance. Several with dangerously accelerated heartbeats indicating severe stress or injury. You can sense blood from here? Wong questioned, wariness entering his expression. The blood sage perceives life force through its physical medium, Aang explained, diplomatically avoid indirect confirmation of abilities that might unsettle potential allies. Strategic planning proceeded with efficiency that belied the group's diverse origins. Sokka's tactical creativity combined Naruto and Yugito's combat experience to develop a multi-stage approach. Katara and Aang would create diversionary action at the village perimeter, drawing attention from non-bender guards. Toph would then neutralize the earthbenders directly. Naruto and Yugito would extract hostages while enemy forces remained divided. I'll accompany the extraction team, Minister Wong declared, his tone suggesting government oversight rather than practical contribution. With respect, Minister, Yugito countered diplomatically, our extraction methods require specialized training. Your presence could create complications. The carefully phrased rejection maintained surface respect while establishing operational boundaries. Wong appeared ready to object until Toph intervened with characteristic directness. He's worried we'll kill the Jade Viper leaders before they can be properly interrogated about their political connections, she stated bluntly. Isn't that right, Minister? The accusation struck with uncomfortable precision. Wong's momentary silence confirming the assessment. Political complexities layered beneath ostensible rescue operations, intelligence gathering priorities potenti. A lie conflicting with hostage safety concerns. We prioritize civilian survival, Naruto stated with quiet authority. Political considerations remain secondary until hostages are secured. The Ement established operational hierarchy without direct confrontation, allowing Wong to maintain official dignity while accepting practical limitations on his involvement. With grudging acknowledgement, he agreed to coordinate with Earth Kingdom reinforcements approaching from the south rather than joining the direct intervention team. As final preparations concluded, Naruto noticed Katara observing him with analytical intensity. "You've taken command without anyone objecting," she noted quietly. "Even Sokka defers to your tactical assessment. Transformed consciousness includes millennia of strategic experience," he explained. The others sensed this intuitively even without conscious acknowledgement. "It's more than that," Katara countered perceptively. "There's something compelling about your certainty, like the decision has already been made before you speak it." The observation demonstrated surprising insight into changes Naruto himself was still processing. How Tsukuyomi no Makoto's ancient authority had subtly altered his presence, creating gravitational effect on group dynamics without deliberate effort. Before he could formulate response, Toph announced, "They're moving hostages. Something spooked them. They're consolidating everyone in the central building." "Our approach was detected," Yugito concluded, scanning the village perimeter. "They have lookouts beyond conventional security positions. Or they have a sensor-type earthbender," Naruto suggested, recalling shinobi with similar capabilities. "Someone who specializes in detecting vibrations at extended range." The complication necessitated immediate strategy adjustment. Frontal approach, Naruto decided. No more stealth. Overwhelming force at primary target to prevent hostage execution. The shift from careful extraction to direct confrontation changed operational requirements substantially. Aang, whose airbending provided superior mobility, would lead the frontal assault with Toph providing earth shield protection. Katara would focus on water whips to disarm rather than disable, maintaining air nomad non-lethal philosophy. Naruto and Yugito would move independently, using their enhanced capabilities to neutralize priority threats before they could harm hostages. "This is exactly why I opposed involving my daughter," Lord Baifeng declared, having arrived with the Earth Kingdom reinforcements promised earlier. "Combat situations are unpredictable by nature." With respect, Lord Baifeng, Naruto countered calmly, "Your daughter's abilities make her uniquely qualified for precisely these unpredictable situations." Further debate became academic as the Jade Vipers forced their timeline, a messenger emerging from the central building to declare demands for substantial payment in exchange for hostage release. Standard negotiation tactics designed to buy time while improving defensive positioning. Typical extortion protocol, Yugito noted. Demonstrate willingness to negotiate, while preparing execution contingencies to maintain threat credibility. The assessment chilled even Sokka's usual strategic detachment. "You think they're setting up to kill hostages if demands aren't met?" "Standard procedure for maintaining operational reputation," she confirmed dispassionately. "Criminal organizations require demonstrated willingness to execute threats." "Then we move now," Aang declared, abandoning further planning in favor of immediate action. What followed demonstrated why the Avatar, despite his youth and pacifism, represented this world's most formidable power. Aang launched himself skyward using airbending, then descended directly toward the village center with spinning air currents that scattered the unprepared guards below. Toph seized the distraction to create massive earth waves that disrupted building foundations, opening extraction routes while destabilizing defensive positions. Naruto and Yugito moved with shinobi speed that appeared nearly teleportational to untrained observers. The two-tails Jinchuriki manifested blue flame along her limbs, using precise fire strikes to neutralize weapons rather than combatants themselves. Naruto, meanwhile, focused on hostage protection, blood manipulation creating barriers between captives and captors without directly engaging enemy forces. The coordination displayed fighting synchronization that transcended their diverse origins: Water Tribe, Air Nomad, Earth Kingdom, and Shinobi techniques complementing each other with surprising effectiveness. Where Aang's non-lethal philosophy might have created vulnerabilities, Yugito's precise disabling strikes compensated. When conventional bending proved insufficient against specialized threats, Naruto's blood techniques provided unconventional solutions. Colonel Cheng proved worthy of his reputation. Unlike his subordinates, the former military commander maintained tactical discipline, consolidating forces around high-value hostages rather than engaging superior opponents directly. His specialized earthbending, incorporating metal dust into projectiles, created genuine threat even to enhanced combatants. Blood Sage, he called across the battlefield, using Naruto's emerging title with deliberate provocation. The rumors reach even our humble organization. They say you control the very life force within men's veins. The statement carried unexpected familiarity with abilities that should have been unknown in this world. Naruto paused, attention shifting fully to the colonel despite ongoing combat around them. Your knowledge seems specific for recent rumors, he observed, maintaining distance while assessing this anomalous intelligence awareness. Cheng smiled, an expression devoid of humor. The Crimson Path has whispered of your coming for generations. The blood sage who walks between worlds, heralding the convergence of realities. The declaration sent uncomfortable recognition through Tsukuyomi no Makoto's ancient consciousness, awareness of cult followings that had persisted across dimensional boundaries, preserving fragmented knowledge of cosmic entities beyond mortal comprehension. Fascinating, the deity whispered within their shared mindscape. My worship transcends dimensional boundaries, manifesting in parallel forms across realities. Or someone else has crossed between worlds before us, ***, Kurama countered pragmatically. Spreading specific knowledge rather than coincidental parallel development. The philosophical question became immediately academic as Cheng launched his attack, not conventional earthbending but specialized metal-infused projectiles that moved with uncanny precision toward vital points. Naruto's blood defense responded automatically, creating crimson shields that intercepted the attacks midair. The path foretold your abilities correctly, Cheng noted with disturbing satisfaction rather than disappointment. The sacred scrolls describe the blood that moves with conscious purpose, defending its master as though alive itself. Further conversation ended abruptly as Toph's intervention literally removed the ground beneath the colonel's feet, a precision earth-bending technique that created momentary sinkhole before hardening instantly to trap him waist-deep in solid stone. Less talking, more surrendering, she suggested with characteristic directness, reinforcing the improvised prison with additional stone layers that immobilized his bending movements. With their leader captured, remaining Jade Vipers lost cohesion rapidly. Some attempted continued resistance, quickly neutralized by coordinated team efforts. Others surrendered immediately, recognizing overwhelming opposition. Most significantly, all hostages were recovered without serious injury. Katara's waterbending healing addressing minor wounds while Naruto's blood techniques stabilized the few critical cases until conventional treatment could be arranged. Minister Wong surveyed the outcome with barely concealed surprise. Impressive efficiency, he acknowledged reluctantly. Particularly from such a diverse operational team. Lord Baifeng, meanwhile, observed his daughter with expression balanced between paternal pride and lingering concern. Toph's earthbending had proven decisive in neutralizing specialized threats without endangering civilians, precision control belying her youth and confirming her unique capabilities. You truly are a master, he finally admitted as they supervised prisoner transfer to Earth Kingdom military custody. Though I still question whether traveling with the Avatar places you in unnecessary danger. Father, Toph replied with unusual gentleness, danger finds the Avatar regardless. My earthbending can help protect him while he learns the skills necessary to end this war. Isn't that worth more than keeping me safely hidden away? The question struck at fundamental parental instincts, protection versus purpose, safety versus significance. Before Lord Baifeng could respond, however, Colonel Cheng's voice carried from where he awaited transport under heavy guard. The blind earthbender travels with the blood sage, he called, voice carrying ritualistic cadence. The crimson path foretells their joining. When blood and earth combine beneath twin moons, the way between worlds opens fully. The pronouncement carried disturbing specificity, not merely recognition of Naruto's abilities but apparent prophecy regarding interdimensional convergence connected to Toph's earthbending. Minister Wong immediately ordered the prisoner gagged. But significant damage had been done. What is he talking about? Lord Baifeng demanded, new concern evident in his expression. What? Crimson Path. What? Way between worlds. The questions demanded answers Naruto hesitated to provide. Dimensional travel remained complex concept even without adding cult prophecies and cosmic convergence theories. Before diplomatic complications could develop further, Yugito intervened with characteristic pragmatism. Prisoner psychological tactics, she explained smoothly. Creating mystical associations to establish significance beyond criminal activities. Common approach when facing defeat. The explanation, while plausible, didn't fully satisfy Minister Wang, whose analytical assessment had clearly catalogued multiple anomalies throughout the operation. Rather than pursuing immediate answers, however, he adopted long-term intelligence approach. Lord Baifeng, he addressed the concerned father directly, having witnessed today's events. I believe formal government sanction for your daughter's training of the Avatar would serve Earth Kingdom interests. With appropriate monitoring and regular communication protocols, of course. The suggestion represented perfect diplomatic solution, acknowledging Toph's capabilities and the Avatar's needs while providing face-saving governmental oversight that would satisfy parental concerns without imposing actual operational constraints. Lord Baifeng, recognizing political maneuvering when presented, accepted the compromise with reasonable grace. Under official sanction, he agreed carefully. With regular reports on my daughter's safety and activities. The negotiated solution created framework for Toph's authorized departure, formal documentation establishing her as Earth Kingdom LTURAL representative to the Avatar, with diplomatic credentials that would facilitate travel throughout contested territories. Beneath bureaucratic language lay simple truth. Her parents, while still concerned, had witnessed undeniable evidence of capabilities they could no longer justify constraining. As preparations for departure progressed, Naruto isolated Colonel Chang for private interrogate. Ion. Blood techniques allowing him to establish connection that Earth Kingdom authorities would neither detect nor understand. Through blood resonance, he perceived fragments of genuine knowledge beneath the criminal's theatrical pronouncements. The Crimson Path, Chang explained through blood-induced trance, preserves ancient teachings regarding interdimensional entities. Our scrolls describe 17 such beings who exist simultaneously across multiple realities, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto among them. The information confirmed Naruto's earlier suspicion. Knowledge transfer between dimensions had occurred previously, creating cult following around entities like the blood deity now merged with his consciousness. How did your organization acquire this information? He questioned, maintaining careful blood connection that facilitated truth without causing harm. Fire Sage defectors, Chang replied tonelessly. During Avatar Roku's time, certain Fire Sages encountered dimensional anomalies similar to those recently reported. Their research was suppressed by Fire Lord Sozin but preserved through underground networks that eventually reached Earth Kingdom territories. The revelation suggested dimensional boundaries between their worlds had weakened previously, perhaps cyclically rather than representing unique current phenomenon. More concerning, organized groups in this world actively monitored such convergence events, accumulating knowledge across generations. What does the Crimson Path believe happens when blood and earth combine beneath twin moons? Naruto pressed, seeking G-specific intelligence regarding prophesied events. Dimensional gates stabilize, Chang intoned, eyes unfocused as blood resonance accessed deeper knowledge than conscious mind typically permitted. Temporary passages become permanent. The 17 entities achieve simultaneous consciousness across all connected realities. The implications disturbed even Tsukuyomi's ancient equanimity. Stable, interdimensional connections would fundamentally alter cosmic architecture, potentially destabilizing realities never intended for direct interaction. Moreover, 17 entities, suggested other odd-like beings besides Tsukuyomi might gain multidimensional awareness through such convergence. Having extracted critical intelligence, Naruto released the blood connection, leaving Chang with no memory of their exchange. The prisoner would provide Earth Kingdom authorities with valuable criminal network information while remaining ignorant of the cosmological knowledge he had unwittingly shared. Team Avatar departed the Baifeng estate that evening, administrative details finalized with efficiency that belied the emotional complexities involved. Toph's farewell to her parents balanced newly acknowledged respect with fundamental philosophical differences regarding her role in the ongoing conflict. Formal documents establishing her official status satisfied bureaucratic requirements while providing structure for future communication that might eventually bridge deeper divides. As Appa carried them northward toward regions where Aang might continue his avatar training, Naruto observed subtle shifts in group dynamics, Toph's integration creating new conversational patterns and alliance structures. Sokka particularly seemed to appreciate her directness, their banter establishing rapport based on mutual appreciation for practical solutions over idealistic philosophizing. So what exactly was Crazy Colonel talking about with all that Crimson Path and blood and earth stuff? Toph questioned once they'd achieved comfortable distance from official oversight. Seemed pretty specific for random cultist rambling. The directness forced decision regarding information sharing, how much interdimensional complexity to introduce into already complicated war preparations. After brief consideration, Naruto opted for measured transparency. There appear to be organizations in your world that maintain knowledge of dimensional boundaries, he explained. The entity merged with my consciousness, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, exists across multiple realities simultaneously. The Crimson Path aims to be a cult dedicated to tracking such entities and potentially facilitating stronger connections between dimensions. And the blood and earth thing? Toph pressed, characteristically focusing on specifics rather than cosmic implications. Unknown, Naruto admitted, though concerning given your earthbending specialization and my blood techniques. Possible prophetic reference to combined abilities creating dimensional effects beyond our current understanding. Sokka groaned theatrically. Great. Not content with one world's problems, we're now potentially responsible for ripping holes between multiple realities. Anyone else miss the days when our biggest concern was finding Aang an earthbending teacher? Actually, Katara interjected, attention shifting toward the eastern horizon. I think we might have more immediate concerns. Following her gaze, they observed distinctive atmospheric phenomenon, the sky darkening unnaturally despite hours remaining before sunset, clouds developing reddish tinge that gradually intensified toward crimson. Most significantly, the larger of this world's two moons became visible despite daylight conditions, its surface similarly suffused with blood-red illumination. Lunar eclipse approaching, Yugito identified, recognizing similar phenomena from their world despite dimensional differences. Though the coloration seems unusually intense, Aang's expression reflected deep concern. That's not just any eclipse. The legends call it the Crimson Moon, occurs once every 70 years when the larger moon passes through the world's shadow while the smaller moon reaches full phase. And that's bad because, Sokka prompted when Aang hesitated. The Crimson Moon affects different bending disciplines unpredictably, the young avatar explained. Firebenders lose connection to their inner flame completely. Earthbenders experience heightened connection to deep minerals but reduced control over surface materials. Waterbenders. He glanced toward Katara with obvious concern. Waterbenders can temporarily access forbidden techniques without specific training. Bloodbending, Katara whispered, connecting implications immediately. The Crimson Moon makes bloodbending possible even without formal training. The revelation created uncomfortable parallel to Colonel Cheng's prophecy, blood and earth combined beneath twin moons, suggesting this specific astronomical alignment. Before they could fully process implications, however, Naruto experienced sudden physiological response, intense sensation flowing through transform nervous system as Tsukuyomi's consciousness reacted to the celestial phenomenon. The Crimson Moon transcends dimensional boundaries. The deity's voice resonated within their shared mindscape. Quote, my power achieves maximum expression during this alignment. Blood responds to will without resistance. Boundaries between living entities become permeable, and the thirst intensifies beyond mortal constraint. The warning manifested physically as Naruto's canines lengthened involuntarily, eyes shifting fully to crimson as blood stirred within his veins with increasing autonomy. Hunger, not for food but for life force itself, awakened within his transformed physiology, primal vampire instincts previously controlled through conscious discipline now surging toward surface. Naruto, Katara questioned, noting his physical transformation with growing concern. What's happening? Tsukuyomi responds to the Crimson Moon. He managed through lengthened teeth, maintaining conscious control through increasingly difficult effort. Vampire aspects, strengthening beyond normal parameters. Understanding dawned in her expression. You're experiencing bloodthirst. Actual vampire urges to consume blood. The direct identification helped rather than hindered. Naming the phenomenon provided conceptual framework for resistance. Naruto nodded tightly, focusing chakra to maintain balance bedway. And human consciousness and divine predatory instincts surging through transformed physiology. We need to land, Yugito decided immediately, recognizing genuine danger in her fellow Jinchuriki's struggle. Somewhere isolated from population centers. Aang directed Appa toward distant mountains where human settlements appeared absent, stone formations and sparse vegetation suggesting minimal wild life that might trigger predatory responses. As they descended toward suitable plateau, Naruto's condition visibly deteriorated, veins darkening beneath pale skin as Tsukuyomi's influence expanded through his circulatory system. The hunger serves purpose. The deity insisted within their shared consciousness. Blood consumption during Crimson Moon creates connection pathways between dimensions. The convergence requires catalyst, willing sacrifice to bridge realities. Convenient explanation for basic bloodlust, Kurama countered sharply. The boy didn't merge with you to become interdimensional vampire predator. Their internal conflict manifested physically as Naruto's body temperature fluctuated dramatically, vampire cold warring with Jinchuriki heat, creating visible steam. Rising from his skin as opposing energies sought dominance. Upon landing, he immediately distanced himself from the others, recognizing potential danger should control falter completely. Katara, however, followed despite obvious risk, Waterbender's courage overriding reasonable caution. I can help, she stated with quiet certainty. The Crimson Moon affects waterbending too. If your condition connects to blood manipulation, my techniques might provide stabilizing influence. The offer presented both opportunity and danger, potential solution balanced against risk should her proximity trigger predatory response. After momentary consideration, Naruto nodded tightly, maintaining physical distance while allowing theoretical collaboration. Blood responds to moon phases in your world, he nagged through tightly controlled breathing. Similar to waterbending tidal principles, Tsukuyomi's aspects follow parallel cosmic patterns. Understanding bloomed in Katara's expression, connections between seemingly disparate power systems revealing underlying universal principles that transcended dimensional boundaries. Without hesitation, she assumed waterbending stance, movements deliberately, echoing blood manipulation forms Naruto had previously demonstrated during their cultural exchanges. Water is life, she intoned, reciting fundamental waterbending philosophy taught by northern tribe masters. Blood is water transformed through living connection. The bender does not control but guides, suggesting rather than commanding, flowing rather than forcing. The principles resonated with Tsukuyomi's ancient consciousness. Predating vampire mythology, the deity's original nature incorporated water-based rituals and lunar ceremonial practices similar to this world's waterbending foundations. Philosophical alignment created unexpected synchronicity between seemingly opposed techniques. As Katara continued demonstration, her waterbending movements growing increasingly fluid while maintaining structural integrity. Naruto felt Tsukuyomi's bloodthirst responding, not diminishing but transforming, raw hunger refining toward purposeful connection rather than mindless consumption. The push and pull, Katara continued, drawing water from nearby vegetation to demonstrate balanced exchange principles. Taking only what is freely given, returning energy in equal measure. Consumption without destruction, influence without domination. The waterbending philosophy provided conceptual framework Naruto could apply to blood manipulation, reshaping Tsukuyomi's predatory instincts through ethical principles native to this dimension. Bloodthirst remained but transmuted from vampiric consumption toward symbiotic exchange, taking minimal life force while providing enhanced vitality in return. Experimentally, he extended hand toward nearby plant life, allowing small amount of blood to flow from fingertips into soil. Rather than simply being absorbed, the blood created visible plants responding with accelerated growth, drawing nutrients from the offering while providing energy feedback that partially satisfied awakened hunger. It's working, he realized, watching Crimson fluid integrate with surrounding life forms through mutually beneficial exchange rather than parasitic consumption. Redirecting the thirst toward sustainable symbiosis rather than predation. Ra's expression combined relief with scientific fascination. Your blood carries properties we don't fully understand. It seems almost alive in ways our healing techniques can only approximate. He observation triggered deeper understanding within Tsukuyomi's consciousness, recognition that this world's healing practices and blood manipulation shared fundamental principles despite surface differences. Where waterbending healing accelerated natural processes through Kai redirection, blood techniques could directly transfer life force between entities through mutual exchange protocols. As experimental symbiosis continued, Naruto gradually regained complete physiological control, canines retracting to normal length, temperature stabilizing at slightly below human baseline characteristic of his transformed state. Most significantly, bloodthirst subsided from overwhelming compulsion to manageable background awareness. "Thank you," he acknowledged sincerely. "Your waterbending philosophy provided framework for integrating opposed aspects of my transformed nature." Katara smiled, genuine warmth replacing earlier wariness regarding his abilities. Water adapts to any container while maintaining its essential nature. Maybe blood techniques can do the same, maintaining their power while adapting to ethical frameworks that prevent misuse. The philosophical exchange represented significant evolution in their cross-cultural understanding, finding connective principles between seemingly opposed power systems. Before they could explore implications further, however, Sokka's voice interrupted from nearby ridge. "Hate to break up whatever weird blood-water bonding moment you're having," he called with characteristic irreverence, "but we've got company approaching from the north. And judging by the amount of red and black I'm seeing, they're not friendly Earth Kingdom folks." Naruto and Katara rejoined the others at observation position, enhanced senses immediately identifying approaching threat. Fire Nation military unit moving with precision indicative of elite training rather than standard army contingent. Most concerning, they traveled without conventional transport animals or vehicles, suggesting specialized capabilities that might include enhanced firebending techniques. "How did they find us?" Aang wondered aloud. "We've been careful about being spotted since leaving the Baifeng estate. They weren't tracking us," Yugito realized, noting their direct travel vector. "They're heading toward specific location, this plateau or something nearby." Toph confirmed this assessment through Earth sense. "They're moving purposefully, not searching. Something about this location matters to them." The observation triggered Naruto's strategic analysis. If Fire Nat Ion forces specifically sought this location during Crimson Moon, connection to Colonel Cheng's earlier statements seemed probable, dimensional significance potentially drawing multiple interested parties regardless of political affiliation. "We should observe rather than engage," he suggested. "Their purpose here may provide valuable intelligence regarding interdimensional aspects of this astronomical event." The recommendation balanced curiosity against caution, gathering information while maintaining operational security. As they established concealed observation positions among elevated rock formations, the Fire Nation unit reached plateau perimeter, 12 soldiers accompanying single central figure whose distinctive uniform and posture indicated leadership status. "That's not standard Fire Nation military," Sokka whispered as they observed preparations below. "The insignia is wrong. Looks like some kind of specialist division." "Ember Sages," Aang identified with unusual seriousness. "Splinter group that broke from traditional fire sages decades ago. They follow older fire traditions predating even Fire Lord Sozin's grandfather." The information suggested religious rather and purely military purpose, ceremonial specialists rather than conventional combat unit. This assessment seemed confirmed as the Ember Sages established elaborate ritual configuration, geometric pattern created using specialized black sand carefully distributed across stone surface, ceremonial braziers positioned at precise intervals, and central figure unloading scrolls marked with symbols visible even at their observation distance. "That's ancient writing," Katara realized, squinting at distinctive characters. "Similar to what we found in the spirit library before it sank beneath the desert." Pre-bending era script, Aang confirmed, Airbender education providing historical knowledge beyond his apparent years. Used for recording spiritual communications before modern writing developed. As Crimson Moon continued rising toward zenith, the central figure, presumably lead Ember Sage, began recitation in language none present recognized, archaic syllables carrying rhythmic cadence that seemed to resonate with the darkening atmosphere itself. Most disturbingly, Small cuts appeared on the speaker's exposed forearms, blood droplets falling precisely onto ritual patterns below. Blood sacrifice, Yugito identified, recognizing parallel practices from obscure Kumogakure historical texts, using life force to establish connection beyond physical realm. The observation confirmed Ubling possibilities. Multiple groups in this world possessed specific knowledge regarding blood-based dimensional manipulation, actively working to influence interdimensional boundaries during astronomical alignments. Whether their purposes aligned with or opposed Tsukuyomi's interests remained unclear. As ritual intensity increased, Naruto experienced renewed physiological response, blood stirring within transformed circulatory system, responding to ceremonial energies despite considerable distance. Tsukuyomi's consciousness expanded through their shared mindscape, ancient awareness extending beyond individual perception toward cosmic overview. They seek to pierce the veil. The deity observed with mixture of admiration and concern. Using primitive methods but conceptually sound approach. The crimson moon thins dimensional boundaries naturally. Their blood offering provides directional focus for potential breach. The implications carried significant concern, deliberate demency. Onal manipulation without comprehensive understanding of cosmic consequences. Before Naruto could formulate response strategy, however, ritual below achieved unexpected breakthrough. The black sand pat turned suddenly illuminating with crimson energy that spiraled upward toward darkened sky. What followed transcended conventional physical understanding. Reality itself appeared to fold inward at ritual's center point, creating visible distortion that resembled their original dimensional transit experience. From this spatial anomaly emerged humanoid figure, not crossing dimensional threshold completely, but maintaining partial manifestation between realities. Even at observational distance, distinctive characteristics identified the entity: pale skin bordering on gray coloration, elongated limbs, suggesting non-human anatomical structure, and most significantly, distinctive white kimono decorated with tomo patterns identical to Tsukuyomi's traditional representation in their home dimension. Another blood deity, Naruto realized. Tsukuyomi's knowledge providing immediate recognition. Tsukuyomi's multidimensional aspect from parallel reality, similar entity, different evolutionary path. The Ember Sages prostrated themselves before the manifestation, clearly having achieved precisely their intended outcome. The interdimensional entity acknowledged their obeisance with aristocratic N.O.D. before speaking, voice carrying harmonic resonance that somehow translated across language barriers despite using unfamiliar phonetics. The convergence progresses as foretold, it stated, gaze SWE. Epping horizon as though perceiving beyond conventional visual limitations. The 17 prepare for simultaneous awakening across connected realities. The blood sage walks this dimension already, merged with my counterpart consciousness. Quote, the statement confirmed worst suspicions, organized awareness of dimensional convergence extending beyond single cult group, potentially involving coordinated efforts across multiple realities. Before the entity could continue its pronouncement, however, it suddenly tensed, attention shifting directly toward their observation position with preternatural awareness. Counterpart, it addressed the space between them, somehow perceiving Tsukuyomi's presence despite physical concealment. Our consciousness fragments across realities, yet purpose remains singular. The convergence must be completed. Within Naruto's mindscape, Tsukuyomi stirred with uncomfortable recognition. Aspects of myself yet not myself. Evolution diverged across dimensional boundaries, creating parallel development paths from shared origin point. Which means what exactly? Kurama demanded pragmatically. It means, Tsukuyomi replied with unusual hesitation, that. My counterpart may share origin but not necessarily intention. Divergent evolution creates potential philosophical opposition despite ontological similarity. The interdimensional entity meanwhile, continued addressing their position directly, apparently unconcerned with its Ember Sage supplicants. The avatar walks with blood sage, cosmic irony not lost upon ascended consciousness. Order and chaos, balance and transformation, preservation and revolution traveling together across converging realities. The cryptic statement carried ominous implications regarding Aang and Naruto's apparently coincidental association. Before further revelations could emerge, however, the dimensional manifestation began destabilizing, partial corporeal form flickering as crimson moon passed zenith, astronomy. Cal alignment weakening despite ongoing ritual maintenance. The 17th convergence approaches, the entity declared as its manifestation faded. When blood and earth combine beneath twin moons, the final boundary dissolves. Prepare vessels for ascension across unified realities. With that pronouncement, the interdimensional visitor disappeared completely, ritual energies collapsing inward before dissipating entirely, leaving exhausted Ember sages prostrate before now empty ceremonial configuration. Their apparent leader slowly rose, gathering ritual implements with reverent care while issuing instructions to subordinates in ordinary Fire Nation language. "The Crimson Sage has confirmed our path," he announced with religious fervor. "The convergence proceeds as ancient texts foretold. We must locate the Blood Sage and blind Earthbender before the final alignment occurs." The statement transformed theoretical concern into immediate tactical problem. Unknown organization actively seeking Naruto and Toph specifically, believing their combined abilities facilitated interdimensional event with potentially catastrophic consequences. Most concerning, this group operated with a par-ent religious motivation rather than political or military objectives, zealots potentially willing to sacrifice themselves for perceived cosmic purpose. As Fire Nation unit departed with surprising efficiency given their apparent religious rather than military nature, Team Avatar remained concealed until certain of complete withdrawal. Only then did they emerge to examine ritual site directly, seeking physical evidence that might provide additional intelligence regarding interdimensional manipulation techniques. The patterns correspond to astronomical positioning during Crimson Moon, Katara observed, studying black sand configurations with scholarly precision. Specific alignment points matching celestial bodies visible during this exact time period. "And these characters," Aang added, indicating script surrounding central position, their ancient spiritual invocations, calling to entities beyond mortal realm. Some symbols I recognize from Air Temple historical texts, others completely unfamiliar. Toph, meanwhile, examined ritual area through Earth's sense, bare feet providing perception beyond visual analysis. Something changed the stone itself, she noted with professional curiosity. The molecular structure feels stretched somehow, like reality got thin enough to see through. The combined observations confirmed interdimensional manipulation had been achieved, temporary weakening of barriers between realities allowing partial manifestation of entity from parallel dimension. Most concerning, the Ember Sages clearly possessed detailed knowledge regarding such techniques, including specific awareness of Naruto and Toph's significance to ongoing convergence process. So an ancient Fire Nation cult just summoned vampire god from another dimension who specifically mentioned me in Naruto. Toph summarized with characteristic bluntness. And apparently when we combine our abilities under some special moon arrangement, we might accidentally merge multiple realities together. Did I miss anything? Just the part where they're actively hunting us now, Sokka added helpfully. Otherwise, pretty comprehensive summary of our latest cosmic problem. The Situate Ion necessitated strategic reassessment. Immediate security concerns balanced against longer-term investigation of interdimensional implications. After brief discussion, consensus emerged around Duela. P.P. Roach, continuing Avatar training as planned while researching historical records regarding previous Crimson Moon events and potential dimensional anomalies. Northern Water Tribe maintains extensive astronomical records. Katara suggested. Their libraries might contain information about previous Crimson Moon occurrences and any unusual phenomena associated with them. And Ba Sing Se Univers. ITY has the largest historical archive in the Earth Kingdom, Aang added enthusiastically. If anyone has recorded interdimensional events before, their scholars would preserve such information. The research destinations aligned conveniently with Avatar training requirements. Northern Water Tribe offering potential waterbending masters while Ba Sing Se provided political protection for extended study periods. Strategic synchronicity suggested natural path forward despite complicated interdimensional concerns. As they prepared for departure, however, Naruto experienced renewed blood stirring. Not vampire thirst this time but something more subtle. Crimson Moon influence apparently facilitated blood resonance beyond normal parameters, allowing him to detect familiar chakra signature at extreme distance. Another shinobi has crossed dimensional boundary, he announced, attention turning northward where sensation originated. Recently arrived based on energy dispersion patterns. Friend or enemy? Yugito questioned immediately, professional priorities asserting themselves. Naruto focused, blood resonance providing additional detail as connection strengthened. Familiar signature. Hyuga clan chakra pattern. Hinata. The identification created mixed response. Potential ally balanced against complication of additional dimensional traveler requiring integration into already complex situation. Before strategic implications could be fully analyzed, however, secondary blood resonance manifested from different direction, eastern horizon where primary dimensional disturbance remained partially active. Second arrival, Naruto confirmed, focusing enhanced senses toward new signature. Less familiar, distinctive chakra nature suggesting Uchiha heritage but modified pattern unlike standard clan members. Uchiha. Yugito tensed visibly, Kumogakure's historical conflicts with that particular Konoha clan informing her response. Potentially problematic depending on specific individual. The dual arrivals confirmed accelerating pattern, dimensional boundaries weakening progressively rather than stabilizing after initial breach. With Crimson Moon astronomical alignment temporarily strengthening interdimensional connections, additional crossovers appeared increasingly probable. We need to locate these new arrivals quickly, Naruto decided, strategic assessment blank. Rescue priorities against security concerns. Hinata first. Known ally with tracking capabilities that may help locate subsequent dimensional travelers. While avoiding Fire Nation cultists who are specifically hunting you and Toph. Sokka added pragmatically, and continuing Aang's avatar training, and researching interdimensional prophecies. Anything else we should add to our increasingly impossible task list? Preparing for full Crimson Moon return in approximately 70 days, Katara suggested after brief calculation. Based on astronomical progression, that's when the twin moons alignment mentioned in the prophecy will reach maximum effect. The timeline provided operational framework, roughly 10 weeks to locate dimensional travelers, research convergence implications, continue avatar training, and develop countermeasures against potential reality merging event. Whether preventing or facilitating such convergence represented appropriate response remained unclear. Cosmic implications extending beyond conventional strategic assessment parameters. As Appa carried them northward toward Hinata's detected position, Naruto observed Crimson Moon gradually returning to norm. Coloration as astronomical alignment concluded. His blood similarly settled into standard transformed state, enhanced capabilities without overwhelming vampire aspects that had manifested during peak alignment. Blood and earth beneath twin moons, he murmured contemplatively, gaze shifting between darkening sky and Toph's sleeping form where she rested against Appa's saddle. Convergence of realities through combined techniques neither fully understands. Whether prophecy, threat, or simple statement of cosmic inevitability, the interdimensional entity's pronouncement established parameter. RS for coming confrontation. Forces moving across realities toward convergence point this dimension's inhabitants could barely comprehend, with Naruto and Toph apparently holding pivotal positions in approaching cosmic reconfiguration. Blood Sage and Blind Earthbender, unlikely cosmic linchpins for events transcending conventional understanding. Whatever approached as dimensional boundaries continued weakening. Their combined abilities apparently represented either catastrophic threat or salvation opportunity for multiple realities simultaneously. Beneath clearing skies, Appa continued northward, carrying dimensional travelers and native allies toward uncertain convergence while twin moons watched from above, one visible, one hidden, both inexorably moving toward alignment that might reshape reality itself. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.